I love the Odyssey. It's hard to imagine how many of the works of modern popular media that we love were either directly or indirectly inspired by the Odyssey.
This is our story. And maybe another reason why the Odyssey is still read so many millennia later. When they say sing for our time too, it's like this is still relevant.
That's part of the spirit of the story is what I'm getting at.
Right.
It's meant to be sung for our time.
Yes. I think this story is a story of twists and turns. Everywhere, people have been like, I can't believe that happened. I truly disagree with this. But somehow the narrative has a way of tricking us into following it through to the end and falling in love with it despite all of its things that we just puzzle about in our mind. And like, I can't believe he did that.
I think that the story is enduring because of that. We can see ourselves in the faults of Odysseus.
They told me that I can never have the thing I most want, and that the thing that I do most want is the thing I already had, but lost.
The Odyssey is one of the oldest surviving adventure narratives in the Western literary tradition, and one of two foundational epics of ancient Greece. Its endurance for nearly 3,000 years as a recurring focus in both scholastic analysis and popular media is, I think, a testament to how deeply the story speaks to the human spirit. Its most recent iteration, Christopher Nolan's sprawling 3-hour cinematic take, brings Homer's epic back to the center of public consciousness. And many voices have already been lent to critique of the film, and I suppose our voices are now going to be flung onto that heap. But the more I've thought about it, and the more I've studied the legacy of the Odyssey in preparation for this episode, I've found myself far more interested in why it still matters to people after millennia of cultural change. We want to use Nolan's film as part of that conversation, but not the sole focus. So
this is as it should be.
If you find content like this interesting, all I do is ask that if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, maybe take a look at our catalog, see if it's interesting to you. We mostly do story analysis on video games, though we do actually pretty frequently get into films too.
Movies, yeah.
Casen and I both have a film background, filmmaking background. I actually feel like a lot of times our filmmaking episodes turned out even better than our game episodes.
They're often more fun to do.
And you can do more of them because you can watch a couple-hour movie and do an analysis on it instead of a 60-plus-hour freaking RPG. But anyways, feel free to like the video, subscribe if you're interested in this kind of content.
Where to begin?
My goodness, I have asked myself that question. I don't know how many times since we decided we were going to cover this, because I love the Odyssey. I have an almost unhealthy obsession with it. And nice. to the point to where every time I kind of get back into it again, it like completely swallows me and my entire life gets thrown at the wayside. Like, hopefully my boss isn't watching this. Should have been doing a lot more work this week. But ended up reading multiple versions, watching many of the screen adaptations, just because I wanted to have this almost comprehensive understanding of the legacy of the Odyssey in order to feel qualified to talk about it. Because I don't. I feel woefully underqualified to talk about it. And that's because there's been, like I was saying, almost 3,000 years of scholarship and study and analysis on this, much of which is done by people who can actually read Homer's Greek.
Ancient Greek,
who are literary professors, who are far more well-read than I am, who can break down the structure of the poetry itself and talk to you about why, from an artistic standpoint, this has been one of the pillars of the literary world, particularly in the West, for as long as it has been. And I know I can't speak to any of that. And you are something of a linguist yourself.
Something of one. In fact, I memorized the entire intro of the Odyssey in ancient Greek.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Okay, this might be the first time any of you have ever heard the Odyssey spoken in ancient Greek. It's really something, though. And it starts out with man, andra. There's two words for man, though. There's anthropos and andra. But andra means like the man, like a man, like a male man person, right?
Yeah.
Andra moenepe musa, polytropon, os malapola plankte, epeitrois hierom toliethron, eperson. Polon danthropon, iden asteakainon egno, pola dogen puntopathen algeon katathymon. Anumenos intepsykin kai noston etairon, aludos etaros erysato, yemnos per afton gar, sveterisin, atastaliesin olonto nipioi. Ton amodenge tea tygater dios, epe, kai imin.
That's really sweet.
That is the intro. Now, people who know Greek will know, first off, on my accent is like whatever. But it's cool. Like,
it sounds
there's
awesome.
something gravitation, there's something heavy about that, right? And I remember the first time I heard that in ancient Greek, I was like, whoa, that's cool. I even taught it to my son, my little 5-year-old. He has this memorized.
Yeah.
Because he thought it sounded cool too. I skipped the part about Helios and whatever, but this is the part that I had my son memorize, and he got a giant cowboy donut for doing it. It took him a couple weeks. But there's something that, one of the things that I have made a big study of is especially the history in the English language of English literature. This is something that has fascinated me for a long time. And Homer shows up from the very beginning, like Geoffrey of Monmouth, who's like the first ever English historian, who just kind of way old English times was like just kind of sketching a brief history of England. And he was like, hey, so our people came from Troy, is what he says. Brutus from Troy came to England, killed the giants, and founded the English land. And it's like, okay, wow. So the ancient English people and some of the earliest recorded accounts of Old English that we have is talking about Homer. It's talking about, often the ancient people held the Iliad in really high esteem, more so than the Odyssey. But the Odyssey was still part of it. And so was the Aeneid and the whole tradition around Homer. Because even though Virgil wrote the Aeneid, and the Western audiences tended to like the Aeneid more because it focused on our shared nature as being Trojans, right? We used to be from Troy. For whatever reason, a lot of Western nations kind of identified with Troy in particular. And in some ways, Christopher Nolan actually carries on the tradition of the English tradition of the way that we take the story and are really kind of sympathetic to the Trojans. The Greeks, less so. The Greeks just loved the Odyssey. But then we had the Aeneid and we had this identification with Troy in the West. Then it goes on. It carries through to, like Chaucer wrote Troilus and Cressida, right? That's the story of the Iliad, essentially. And he's he's the first great English poet. And he shows up, and what's he writing about? He's writing about Homer. And this is Middle English, kind of. And then, we get these translations, going throughout, like Chapman and Pope and going forward. Each time, it changes our culture, right? Homer, the reintroduction of Homer as the English language began to change was earth-shattering each time it happened. Because, stories can easily be forgotten in a generation or two. But once it's reintroduced, people there's something fascinating about it. I didn't mention what the English translation to what I had read. That was just the ancient Greek. But in the Fagles, it's, sing to me of the man, muse, the man of twists and turns.
Yep.
Right? The word is polytropos. Polytropos. That means many devices, as I think how Lattimore says it. Twists and turns is Fagles. Everyone has a different way of translating it because it's kind of a hard word to translate. But I don't think it's just Odysseus who's the man of twists and turns. I think the Odyssey. I think this story is a story of twists and turns. And so much of it, even in the West and even in Greece, I'll bet, everywhere, people have been like, I can't believe that happened. I truly disagree with this. Oh, he's a bad person, that Odysseus. Oh, I can't believe it. But somehow the narrative has a way of tricking us into following it through to the end and falling in love with it despite all of its things that we just puzzle about in our mind. And I can't believe he did that. Or I would never have done that. Or what is he thinking? What was he thinking when he did this? And so here we are with this ancient work 3,000 years later with a society that almost in no way resembles that ancient society.
Yeah.
In some bad ways and in some good ways, we have left that behind, for better or worse, is what I mean. But here we are still telling this story because it puzzles and amazes us at the same time.
Yeah.
And without those puzzling elements that we wonder, why was that included here? That wasn't a nice thing to do. Those are some of the things that make this story polytropos, that make it a story of twists and turns, and one that also has many interpretations.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what's so difficult about the Odyssey and Homer in general, is like, what was Homer doing? What was the authorial intent here? Because Homer himself seems to be a bit of a man of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And so, he was he was blind, right? And he just kind of dictated this. Now, obviously, this was, I don't think he said this when it happened. This would have been centuries after the Trojan War. But he was the poet that essentially brought this out of the ether, being not even somebody who could see. And here he is. And then often in Homer's poetry, you have the prophet is blind, right? There's the blind prophet, the man who sees what others can't, but he can't see what you can see, but you don't see what he can see. And Homer talks about that a lot. I feel like that's why the story lasts so long. But yeah, the historical and linguistic accounts, I will never stop reading this story.
Yeah.
Like the Odyssey is forever ingrained in my mind, and I am, passing it down to my kids.
You spoke there about its endurance over so many years, and it kind of reemerges again and then reemerges again.
Yes. Now is one of those times.
I am not a historian or a linguist or a poet even. I am sort of
What are you?
I am sort of an aspiring novelist. So more of like prose writing versus poetry. But I was trying to think of how can I speak to what this story means to me. And that experience you're describing of its reemergence for a new generation is embodied in me and how this story inspired me to become who I am. I have spoken a lot about how if I hadn't played certain games growing up, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. If I hadn't had the experience I had with Final Fantasy VII or The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time or something like that, we wouldn't be here sitting in front of this audience talking so passionately about these things because it changed the way I think. It changed who I wanted to become. The Odyssey was the first of that kind of experience for me. I had my first introduction to it as a really little boy when my mother would read poetry and Shakespeare to us and classical literature.
Yeah.
And that might sound crazy to people, not to you. But
nope. My kids are getting that exact upbringing right now.
But to read something that is difficult as far as the language to understand.
Yeah.
And something that
like
is
intentionally
difficult just conceptually, thematically for children. A story like The Odyssey or Tale of Two Cities or a lot of Shakespeare plays my mother would read to us. It's almost hard to imagine how many of the works of not only classical literature, but the works of modern popular media that we love were either directly or indirectly inspired by the Odyssey.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so many, it's impossible to tell.
I know, it's crazy.
And anyway, my mother also read the Bible to us, and it was the King James Bible. So I grew up from a really young age with a fondness for that style of language. And what I didn't understand growing up, what I maybe accredited to early modern English sort of vernacular, was actually a lot in structure. I'm talking about like in the linguistic structure, translated from Greek.
That's cool.
Maybe through Latin as an in-between,
usually.
but still from Greek.
Right, yes.
And that was something that I thought was fascinating about these recent readings I was doing, particularly in the translations that really try their best to stick to as close to as they can the form and structure of the Greek, how similar it sounds and feels to the scriptures I grew up with, which also originally came from Greek into Latin and then into English. And so the many versions of the story that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me hold off on that first. Let me finish my point on how this inspired me.
Go ahead. So
that seed was planted. I have always had this horrific fascination with the Cyclops, the Polyphemus scene.
Yeah, horrific fascinations is the right description.
There is something about my mother's reading. I can't tell you which translation it was. It probably was Pope, because that was probably closest to the type of scriptural language she was trying to get us accustomed to. And we would have to like memorize scriptures and memorize different things.
Yeah.
We would get, gifts, prizes, or whatever for memorizing certain things. You know all about that.
Yeah.
My mother did that for us growing up.
That's cool.
So I memorized a lot of Shakespeare, memorized a lot of verses of the Bible. I memorized a lot of different things. I gained this fondness for the language. But that scene, imagining in my head this giant Cyclops creature grabbing men and eating them in front of the rest of the men, and how horrifying that would be, it really struck me. It stuck with me and has always been the scene I think about when I think about the Odyssey.
Does it feel like there's something you're still trying to work out about,
maybe,
like the meaning of that scene?
Maybe.
Because that's how I feel.
I had a similar kind of experience. There's a Magic the Gathering card. I don't remember the name of the card.
Somebody out here is going to know it.
Somebody out there will know it. But the image was so striking. And I was in high school by this point. I didn't get an introduction to Magic the Gathering until some of my friends in high school were playing it. But the card has a man laying on a wooden table. He's tied down. And there's a monster kind of emerging from the darkness behind him that is sucking out like the intestines of this man on the table. And the look of horror on the man's face who is being tortured, it was like burned into my head.
Yeah.
It was really disturbing.
Yeah.
And I had a similar experience imagining a Cyclops picking up a man and just eating him alive.
Yeah.
When my mother told us the story of the Odyssey.
Some of that is Homer doesn't hold back when he described it, and
the gore,
and even after Polyphemus drinks the wine, he throws up.
Yeah,
and he throws up chunks of the bodies,
of the dead soldiers.
It's really, really graphic.
Yes, so that always kind of remained with me, and I remember from a young age, probably around 5 or 6 years old, I wanted to write a story. I got onto my dad's laptop, one of those ancient laptops, which were like monochromatic screens that were more like orange and black.
Yes, yeah. I remember that.
And I tried to create a document and like write a story. That's my first memory of wanting to be a storyteller. And I remember thinking about the Odyssey as inspiration for what kind of story I wanted to tell, a sort of fantasy adventure. So I didn't know how to write a story. I was a little kid, and I didn't really even know how to write that well, if at all.
Right.
I might have been young enough to not have even known how to read or write that much at all, and was just typing random stuff thinking I wanted to write a story.
That's fun.
But once I got into high school, and this was true for many people, I don't know if it's still part of the curriculum in English classes in high school today. It was when we were in high school, my sophomore year. We read The Odyssey and we read The Hobbit that year.
Oh, nice.
And my teacher assigned to us in the class a 5-page story, original story, that encapsulated all of the elements of the hero's journey, or the hero with 1,000 faces. I still have what I turned in to my teacher a week and a half later.
Nice.
It is an over 100-page story, an illustration of which I drew on the front there.
I have read this,
And-
and it's very cool. Well, maybe not all of it, but
I was
parts of it.
wondering if you had read this version or if you had read maybe a later one. But as you can see here on the first page, we have color-coded all the elements of the hero's story.
Cool.
So I had to essentially work each one of these things in there somewhere. And so if we go to like a page that has one of those parts in it, you'll see that I've color-coded so we have some text in red here and some text in green. And I was basically signaling
that you did the
that
project.
I had done the occupation and the mysterious childhood.
Cool.
So I had to make sure I do all these. We have the hero, occupation, quest, mysterious childhood, call to adventure, refusal of the call, supernatural aid, crossing the threshold, belly of the whale, road of trials, meeting with the goddess, woman as the temptress, atonement with the father, apotheosis, and the ultimate boon. So I had to work each one of those things into the story.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be 5 pages, and I wrote over 100 pages. And I drew a map here of my little world, right? I was also, obviously, in high school, the big thing in as far as movies was the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, of
and
course.
we were obsessed with that at the time. So that also greatly inspired this story that I wrote. But as I was saying earlier, that was either directly or indirectly inspired by the Odyssey itself. So I didn't do anything for that week and a half or 2 weeks or whatever that we had to write a 5-page story. I don't know. It seems like a long time, 2 weeks, maybe a week. But I didn't do anything other than this. I got completely absorbed in it. And we were not only reading the Odyssey in the class at the time, they showed us the 1997 miniseries in the class too.
Upon watching it, I realized I had not seen that before.
Oh, it's so
I don't know
good.
what I watched in class. It would have been much shorter.
Yeah.
But that I had not seen that before.
You haven't seen that version?
Now I have. I have because of you, but I did not watch it in high
Shout
school.
out to Miss Wiley, who was my teacher.
Yeah.
And
sounds like you had a good teacher.
My mother planted the seeds of my love of language and literature and writing and storytelling. This teacher cultivated and just absolutely lit that passion on fire for me. I have always said that whenever I end up publishing this book, because this was version number 1, that she told me to publish then, and I was like, no way, I wrote this in like a freaking week. It's terrible. I'm going to keep working on it. That turned into this version, which I mailed to myself thinking that would give me copyright or something.
Nice.
Here's, the next version of it, which was much longer.
When was this finalized?
This was written actually when I was a missionary.
Nice.
When I would, I guess I started it before I left, probably 18.
Okay.
But
this might be the version that I had
completed this version as a missionary, just writing at night in my journal.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I wouldn't journal write, I would write this. But I ended up finishing it and printing it out and mailing it to myself as a means of like owning its copyright, because I had heard that that's how that works, and I don't even know if that's true. That turned into this version, which is in this notebook here. And into illustrations of my characters and different scenes.
I remember you doing some of these.
This went on and on through years. All of these are outdated now. This character doesn't even exist anymore in the story, which turned into this version, which is an over 400-page first novel in a series of 4.
That took you 30 years to write. Wow.
Which is still, even now, not the current version. I have an even newer transcript I'm working on at this point. The point is, sophomore English class would have been, how old am I now? Geez. 2002 or 3. Years. I don't remember which year it was. 2002 or 2003.
Sophomore.
It's something like 23 years ago.
Yeah.
That this has been kind of like the most passionate thing in the back of my mind that I want to do creatively. And the reason all of that 23 years of work exists is because of the Odyssey. Primarily the Odyssey. Of course, a lot of other inspirations, many of the things I've loved, but the Odyssey, it was the first. And the focus of study in the class that assigned the assignment that turned into what this is. And so I'm going to put this to you, the viewers, you, the audience of this channel. I could sit here and talk about this for 60 to 100 hours. Yeah. I could talk about the Odyssey and all the ways in which it's incredibly fascinating to me and all of its iterations and comparing them and doing our little matrix, the remake fidelity matrix, and plotting each version of it into different places.
Oh, that'd be great.
We could do that.
Yeah.
But I will leave it to you to show us whether you care at all. So this episode I have had to accept is not going to be that comprehensive study of the Odyssey. It is going to be surface level, sort of like an understanding of its legacy, where it's come from, how many versions there are, which ones might appeal to you.
Right.
And kind of culminating in this latest film that came out and how it's trying to take that legacy and give a modern audience a version of it that's relevant to our times, I suppose. So, with all that being said, if this gets enough views, likes, subscriptions, people asking for it in the comments, maybe it can turn into a small mini series all its own. Maybe we'll talk Iliad a bit more, which is another great work of art that I would love to talk about. But we've been going 30 minutes already, so we might as well get actually like moving through this thing.
Good.
I kind of wanted to talk about the different versions, maybe starting with the literature side of this. So you have obviously the original poems written by Homer in ancient Greek, but the versions that would be accessible to anyone watching this are probably going to be English versions.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about the versions we've read and the different styles and the approaches of each translator and why they took the direction that they did, to kind of give you a landscape of choices if you wanted to read this for yourself, which one would be good for you.
Yeah.
What would you say in terms of these different versions, like the merits of each one? And because you have several different translations.
Yeah. And I've read several versions as well. I actually have in more recent years gained a heavy interest in the Iliad more so than the Odyssey. But that is a change. It used to be that the Iliad was the thing I didn't really understand, and the Odyssey made a lot more sense to me. And I think it's because some of it has a lot to do with Alexander Pope, to kind of maybe start off with him. He wrote his translation of the Odyssey right at the beginning of what we now call the Enlightenment. And his writings, and especially his translation of the Iliad and the Odyssey, are so incredibly valuable. This is what Thomas Jefferson was reading when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson quotes Pope. A ton of the early American founders were quoting Alexander Pope. And a lot of, like, his footprint is hard to notice today. We don't talk about Pope often. But other than Shakespeare, he is the most quoted English writer to have ever lived. That's wild. Like, it's weird that there's somebody like that. And though he wrote the Odyssey, and that was one of the big... but the thing is, the world really appreciated the Iliad more than the Odyssey for a long time. The Odyssey was one of those huge formative books, but the Iliad is the one where everyone wanted to trace their lineage back to. You got to get back to Iliad. You've got to decide, are people, which side do you take? Are you a Greek or are you a Trojan? Are you going to side with them, and where do your people come from? Did they come from Greece or from Anatolia, from Troy?
Present day Turkey.
Yes, nowadays. It's right near where Constantinople is now. So it's like really, a lot of people didn't think that it was a real place. A lot of people discounted the entire story and the entire Trojan War as being completely made up by Homer. And since then, there have been many discoveries, but one of them is that the city of Troy did exist, and Constantinople isn't even that far from it. Yeah. So it's like, it wasn't in, although at the time it was discovered, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't a very accessible part of the world for a long time. But Alexander Pope brought it to the public consciousness. I'm going to start out with him. because there was a translation before him, which is Chapman's. Chapman's is amazing. I love it a lot. And John Keats loved it the most. He wrote his poem upon reading Chapman's Homer, right? And he says that he's like, I've been to Greece. I've been all around those islands. I've heard people talk about it, but not until I read Chapman's Homer did I realize like the power and immensity and the wonder of this story, right? And it was like a stargazer discovering a new star is kind of what he likens it to. But Chapman's, he was kind of criticized, especially among academics, as being a little too superfluous, a little too, even the academics were like, your work is pretty not accessible. And it wasn't like the most faithful translation. Okay. So then Alexander Pope shows up and he's where it really kicks off. He is where the Odyssey finds its legs here in the West, and especially here in the United States. And I think there's a lot, it's the Enlightenment. The Odyssey is about a man kind of fighting against the gods. On the side of some, but really against some as well. And there was something that the Enlightenment, I think, liked about Odysseus, right? Mm-hmm. He was scrappy, he was intelligent, he was wise, and he thwarted the will of the gods that were plotting his demise. Now he did so through following the goddess of wisdom, but early in the Enlightenment, I think that was a valuable narrative because the Iliad isn't quite like that. It's gods versus gods, and it's the cities. But the greatest temple to Athena was in Troy. Mm. She was on the Greek side. She wasn't on the Trojan side.
She was.
So anyways, but one of the reasons she got very upset at the Greeks is what happened to that temple in Troy after Troy was sacked. They weren't nice to her temple. And the movie, Nolan's movie shows that very well. They cut the head off of Athena and all that. And it's like, whoa. So Athena, anyways, complicated stuff. But I think that we moderns have an easier time understanding Odysseus than we do Achilles or Agamemnon. Right. Or Paris, or Hector, or any of those characters, or even Helen and these people. We have a much harder time with the Iliad, but the ancient world understood them perfectly. Odysseus was the one that the ancient world had a harder time understanding. Yet that is the way the modern world has kind of shaped. I think the Odyssey has shaped our modern world. That's what I'm saying. That's everything I just said. The Odyssey story has shaped our modern world. The Iliad shaped a lot of the ancient world.
Yeah.
So, that being said, we've got a whole ton of translations. Nolan himself said that he based his story off of Emily Wilson's translation. Yep. Emily Wilson's is pretty recent, probably it's a faithful rendering of the ancient Greek, and she does it in poetic verse, right? But it is it's very modern, right? She definitely modernized it and she made it more accessible. So it's easier to read for modern people than Alexander Pope's.
Yeah, right.
So it's very easier to read. And it also, maybe she inserted some of her personal, modern stuff. So did Alexander Pope, though.
Yes.
And so did Chapman.
Yeah, and
in fact, people can't help but do that.
Samuel
so maybe
Butler.
I shouldn't. Samuel Butler definitely did.
Samuel Butler, sorry. Let's do this first. Let's break down the versions. And
so you asked me to do that?
When they came around real quick. You mentioned Chapman.
Yeah.
And then
he was
Pope,
the first
kind of Pope coming
English.
after that, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about Pope first really quickly.
Yeah.
And there's something really fascinating about Pope's version to me in terms of the philosophy behind translation. Okay. We've talked about this a lot with video game translation because we talk a lot about Japanese video games.
Yes.
And Japanese video games as translated in English because we're Americans, and what is lost in that translation, cultural differences, different styles of performance now that we're in an age of voice acting and motion capture versus all kinds of things. So if you're if you've been following the channel, you've probably seen some of those conversations. So this is maybe a little bit of a side note or antidote to that kind of discussion. But Alexander Pope's translation is probably the most linguistically beautiful.
I think so, yeah. It's so powerful.
But it is not very faithful.
Right.
And what do I mean by faithful? This is really getting into the weeds. When I say it's not faithful, I don't mean like he changed an entire character's arc or something. Or that he changed in the way that some of these film adaptations or say Epic the musical has changed details
like tons.
about what happens in the story.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about faithfulness in this translation sense. I'm talking about, do they refer to Odysseus in the first line as a hero, or do they refer to him as a man of many ways?
I see.
Those are two very different introductions in terms of setting up how we're supposed to view this character right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Samuel Butler says hero. Lattimore says man of many ways.
Yeah.
Man of many ways is the more faithful translation.
Right.
But
it doesn't mean...
But there are reasons for why a translator like Pope did it the way that he did it. And the thing that's interesting to me is Lattimore...
he's probably the most accurate.
Most accurate translator. Yeah. If you're looking for something that is as close as possible to the Greek, but in English, he's the version you want to go with.
Right.
But Pope's version is so interesting to me because it's not just about the words. I think Pope was also thinking about what would the experience of a Greek person in that time listening, because it was orated, to the poetry that was in the DNA of the ancient world, their structure and style of poetry and the effect that would have on its audience. How do I translate that effect to English-speaking people?
Right.
English poetry is not written in the hexameter that Greek and ancient poetry was. Actually, Latin was written in that kind of that meter as well. Well, in English poetry, they use iambic pentameter, which is a different structure.
Yeah, Chaucer did that. And we also have like rhymes. Like you'll notice Greek poetry doesn't rhyme.
No.
At least not usually. It's like, but it's still a poem. Like the juvenile definition of a poem is something that rhymes.
Yes.
And it's like, you have to rid that from your mind when dealing with ancient poetry.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. When I think most English-speaking people, total laymen, not people who are into literature or poetry, think of poetry, they think of rhyme.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
Right? Yeah. They think of poetry as being something that rhymes.
Yeah.
And
it's not a poem.
The lyrics of our popular music generally are written in rhyme. The iambic pentameter part of it, not to get bogged down in the details, just means there's a pattern of sort of 5 what they call feet per line.
Yeah, there's a rhythm.
And this is about a stressed versus unstressed syllable. So you have an unstressed to a stressed syllable. That makes 1 foot. And you have that repeated 5 times in a line. That's the structure of iambic pentameter, and that's in the DNA of English poetic tradition. So he decided to use that in his translation versus following the hexameter of the ancient Greek version, because he's interpreting that's their like poetic tradition, but this is our poetic tradition. So the effect it will have will make more sense in this structure versus that one. So when you read Pope, obviously you're going to be reading language that is of his time. So it's going to sound very archaic to our modern ears.
Yeah.
But I have always had an affinity for that language.
Me too.
Because my mother read it to me and gave me that appreciation as a young kid. And there's just this gravitas to it and this diversity of vocabulary and this elevated nature that just sounds so epic to me.
Yeah.
So I love Pope's version.
Yeah.
But it is not, if I were to
like
plot
word
this,
for word accurate.
Yeah, it's not word for word faithful. If we were to plot this on our little faithfulness
the quadrant,
right? I would put it high on the spirit side, but low on the surface level side. So it kind of fit into that upper left quadrant somewhere. But I think I understand the spirit in which he was working, right?
Gotcha.
And I believe he captures the spirit of the Odyssey, but for a different culture.
Sure.
Lattimore is way high on the surface
He's top right.
detail.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a little bit less accessible, particularly to people today.
Right.
So you have versions that come after that tried to, like Samuel Butler's version, make it read more like prose, like a novel or something, and less like a poem.
His was before Lattimore, though. But the prose ones, it's like if you just want the story, right? Because sometimes you'll read the poetry and it's like, just give me the story.
Right.
So Samuel Butler does a prose version with that.
But there's something really funny with Butler's version. His intention was to make it sound modern, but it was modern for his time in the 1800s.
Which was, 150
maybe
years
early
ago.
1900s.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound modern anymore.
Right.
So Emily Wilson's translation comes in, and that's probably closer to the spirit of what Butler was trying to do.
Sure.
But for people today, I think her version was 2017. Or something like that.
Yeah. And I've read some of her. I haven't read
I think
much of her Odyssey, but because I've read her Mythos. She did a book with Stephen Fry about Greek mythology.
Yes.
I read that one, and I actually really liked it. And Stephen Fry narrates the audiobook, so he's just wonderful.
Yeah.
So I actually really like that. She's done a lot of good work. But she adds it's a more modern flavor, and especially just in her selections of what she chooses to talk about and whatnot. It's like, all right, it just feels a little bit more in line with the modern people, which is fine. It's a product of its time, the way they all are. But Robert Fagles is the one that I would probably suggest reading if it's your first time reading Homer, because it is still poetic verse. But Fagles takes what Lattimore did, and he makes it more accessible, but not in like I don't even know how to put it. He takes what Lattimore did, and he gives an accurate rendering. Just it's a little more accessible.
Yeah.
He doesn't go as far as Emily Wilson does, but he doesn't keep it stuck in where Lattimore's is. And I love Lattimore's. I think Lattimore's is probably the best one, although I prefer to read Pope's. And then Fagles is the one that I read this time. Yeah. And Fagles is the one that when my kids memorize Homer's lines, it's Fagles that they're memorizing.
Right.
It's just a little easy for them to deal with.
Yeah.
And Fagles was written in like the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. It's pretty close.
I like different aspects of all of these ones we're talking about.
Yeah.
I love the flow and the language of Pope. I love
the intensity of Chapman. Did you check out Chapman?
I've read Chapman.
He's probably the most intense.
It's awesome.
I love it.
I love the prose take of Butler. There's probably a part of me at some point in my life where I want to read this as a novel versus a poem, an epic poem. Yeah. And like, that's a really cool flavor to have there. And Wilson, likewise, has certain elements to hers that I like, that are absent in other versions. Fagles, like you said, it's maybe somewhere kind of like a midway point between Lattimore and Wilson, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But he uses the Roman or Latin versions of all the names,
like
Ulysses instead of Odysseus.
But Samuel Butler and Alexander Pope.
This
is a hard one. Maybe just for benefit for your life and in the future, it is a good thing to just like get a nice spreadsheet and just like Minerva, down. Athena, Jupiter, Zeus, and just like just remember that because it can get confusing.
Neptune, Poseidon, Ulysses, Odysseus,
Pluto, Hades.
All the names are different. So I'm used to the
Mars,
Greek names. So when I'm hearing, who is that again? Which god was that? Right? Like, it immediately kind of like takes me out to where I have to think about which character they're talking about because I'm not as familiar with the Romanized versions of those names. I know that they're the names of our own planets in our solar system, but I don't know which one belongs to which. I don't have that like particularly memorized all the time.
Remember when I was younger, I used to think Venus was Athena.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh no, Venus is Aphrodite. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little confusing. Sorry. And for whatever reason, it seems like the Romanized names were really popular earlier in the 20th century and even the 19th century. But then in the latter part of the 20th century, all of a sudden, we've gone back to the Greek for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I really don't know what it was. But there, like I said before, the West sided with Troy, and the Aeneid was written in Latin.
Yeah.
And the Aeneid is a Roman book, and that is where the West the West's access into the Iliad was through the Aeneid, not the Odyssey. And so the West favored the Roman gods over the Greek gods. It's only in the last maybe 100 years or so, maybe even less, that the Greek gods have shown
Reemerged.
Yeah, reemerged.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but there may be some ideas that the Greek civilization is older than Roman civilization, and that these are the original gods. We kind of have an obsession with that, I guess. But really, they're so similar.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about translations. There is a very recent one done by Daniel Middleson.
Okay.
That I would say is somewhere in between Lattimore and Fagles.
Nice.
So
That's
Fagles
cool.
is somewhere between Wilson and Lattimore. Mendelssohn is somewhere between Fagles and Lattimore. So it's more faithful to the original Greek. I believe he tried to stick to that hexameter in terms of like the 6 feet per line kind of thing. That is true to the original Greek poetry, but it is more readable than Lattimore is for modern audiences.
I see.
I really like that version a lot. That's the version I ended up reading all the way through in preparation for this podcast.
Oh, nice.
Though
nice.
I read different scenes in all the different versions just to get their flavor and remind myself of, what's out there.
So you're talking like elevated speech, like on a scale from Pope to Wilson, meaning more like the Shakespearean speech down to where, like, for instance, Emily Wilson will say like dad instead of father.
Right.
And
he doesn't go that far in terms of like modern vernacular, but the way that I would describe it, and this is just a feeling, I haven't studied it close enough to say whether or not this is literally true, but it feels like he's using the vocabulary of modern people, but with the sentence structure of biblical and Greek language.
I mean, that's cool. That's cool.
So, a lot of people struggle with archaic writing because they'll read it and feel that it's very repetitive, or that it explains in so many words what could be said with much fewer. That's sort of a modern take on writing, where they prefer you to say more with less.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment.
It depends on what
in certain contexts.
Yeah.
But in this context, I don't. In this context, I prefer that very verbose, lengthy, wordy sort of writing, because it is at its heart a poem. It is a linguistic work. It is a work that is art with words. And I'm not saying that novels aren't that, and that there isn't an artistry in your ability to withhold or to use subtlety or subtext or things like that. But those are different priorities in prose and novels than in poetry.
Yeah.
Where this is not just about the ideas, it's about the specific turn of phrase. It's about the specific combination of words in this perfect flow. And I feel like Mendelssohn understands that and is faithful to the ancient Greek sentence structure.
And his came out very recently, right?
Yeah, 2025.
Wow.
I think it's great.
Nice.
There's an audiobook version of it too, if you're into that. And so that's a version I just read that I would definitely recommend. I thought it was awesome.
Well, you're bringing up kind of maybe a sliding scale between efficiency and beauty.
Sure.
Right. And it's like, if your goal is to just read it to have read it and then be done with it, I guess you'll want an efficient read that just...
Yeah, Wilson might be a great... Not to say that hers isn't like beautifully
actually, because hers still is poetic.
Yeah, it's not like it's not beautifully written.
Maybe instead of Wilson, there should be another... I wish I was more familiar with all of the modern translations.
There's Fitzgerald, which I haven't read, and
his was pretty old.
But his
is pretty beautiful.
As I understand it, is maybe considered one of the most beautifully poetic versions in English.
Yeah, I just read the beginning of it, but it was very cool.
Yeah.
It does inspire the soul. So maybe it's not fair to Wilson to put her at that, end of the spectrum.
I agree with that. I want to make sure we emphasize that. She's a great writer,
right?
And she understands the story very well.
Yeah, and it is a translation.
She had a particular goal or aim with it, which was to make it readable for modern audiences. And she did a great job of that.
But beauty and efficiency.
Yeah.
And efficiency would be, I don't know, just get like what did they call those? Cliff Notes? Like, just get
Cliff Notes
a Reader's
version.
Digest, just like a little, like, whatever, if that's what you want, right? But if you really want the power of this story to come through, the power of the story lies in its beauty.
Yeah.
And so you're missing a lot if you just pick the most efficient way to technically digest the story.
Yeah. We got great one here in the comments bringing up Madeline Miller. I have not read that version. What would you say are some of the strengths of her translation? Please. We'll kind of watch the comments for that. But there are countless translations.
There are tons, probably hundreds,
so many.
Yeah.
But those are some of the versions of which I've actually read and looked into, and the merits of each. I wanted to maybe just as a matter of flavor, right? Kind of just read like the opening line from a couple of these versions.
I was hoping we would do this.
Just so you guys can get a sense for it and see which version you would like to read yourself.
And realize why Pope's is the best. The Pope has the best intro.
I do like Pope's a lot. So maybe we should start with Pope's.
Okay. Do you want to alternate or?
Yeah. Why don't you... Yeah, I think I have it here. Did you copy it? Or?
I have Pope's and Chapman's from Gutenberg.
Why don't you read...
Let me just do Pope's
Chapman and Pope's off, and then maybe I'll move over to Lattimore and I'll move on over to Lattimore, Fagles, and maybe Mendelssohn, and then maybe we can then switch over to Butler and Wilson, and that should be enough.
The man, O Muse, in form that many a way, wound with his wisdom to his wished stay, that wandered wondrous far, when he the town of sacred Troy had sacked and shivered down, the cities of a world of nations, with all their manners, minds, and fashions, he saw and knew, at sea felt many woes, much care sustained to save from overthrows himself and friends in their retreat from home, but so their fates he could not overcome. Though much he thirsted, O men unwise, they perished by their own impieties. That in some of this doesn't rhyme anymore because they impietize, I think would be maybe how they would have said that.
How it would have been
that in their hunger's rapine would not shun the oxen of the lofty going sun, who wherefore from their eyes the day bereft of safe return, these acts in some part left, tell us as others, deified seed of Jove, now all the rest that austere death outstrove.
Jove is Jupiter.
Jove is Jupiter, who is Zeus.
Zeus, right.
There's a few steps removed there. I want to point a few things out with Chapman's translation.
I just want to say real quick.
And I have Fagles memorized, by the way. So
definitely sounds prophetic and epic and intense in a way that Pope's does not. Pope's feels a little more flowery and there's finesse to it.
So
and this
Chapman
is a little more like...
intense.
This is a little more like... Blunt's not quite the right word. Maybe it would have been in the language of his time, but like prophet at the pulpit, like preaching to you.
Blood and thunder. What would you call it? Fire and brimstone is what they say.
Sort of like character to it that I really like.
One of the things that I always get a kick of is the way they translate that word polytropos in this word is many a way, right? The man of many a way. But listen, wound with his wisdom to his wished stay that wandered wondrous far.
A lot of alliteration.
That's alliterative verse, which is Old English poetry. So Old English poetry did not rhyme the way we think of rhyming today. Old English poetry had its kennings, which was just clever uses of ways to describe something. But then the meter was alliterative verse. It was always... and this is Old Norse poetry too. You would start out, the wide whale way is the way of, it's how you say that's the ocean, it's the sea. But their poetic way of referring to it used alliteration a lot. And so you see that George Chapman being the first modern English poet to translate Homer, he's still got some of that Old English flavor carrying along with him,
that's really
which
cool.
I love. I really love. I wish we kept more alliterative verse. So that was Chapman. Now, and by the way, okay, this version of Alexander Pope has a killer introduction, but I think we can skip it for time.
A lot of these books, if you buy them, download them, whatever, will have these super long introductions that talk all about why they made the choices they did. Very academic. And I love getting into that.
Me too.
I don't know how many other people do, but my goodness, it's really cool to read that stuff and to get like the thought process behind why they translated it the way they did.
And sometimes they even respond to critics and they're just like, so-and-so from like 300 years ago. All right, so this is Alexander Pope. The man, for wisdom's various arts renowned, long exercised in woes, O muse resound, who, when his arms had wrought the destined fall of sacred Troy and raised her heaven-built wall, wandering from clime to clime observant strayed, their manners noted, their states surveyed, on stormy seas unnumbered toils he bore, safe with his friends to gain his natal shore. Vain toils, their impious folly dared to prey on herds devoted to the god of day. The god vindictive doomed them nevermore. Ah, men unblessed to touch that natal shore. Oh, snatch some portion of these acts from fate, celestial muse, and to our world relate.
English used to be such a beastly language.
Oh my God. You guys.
English used to be a really dope language.
It used to be so
Before
cool.
the age of TikTok, English was freaking awesome.
That's it. It coincides perfectly with TikTok.
I just love Pope's. I love Pope's turn of phrase, his flow,
he's so
his
good.
language is really beautiful. It's not the most readable thing in the world. You have to maybe stop and think about it, particularly if you haven't been raised with this kind of language, particularly. But
Sure.
it's so beautiful. It's magnificent.
Maybe your second read should be Pope. How about that? Do Fagles, then Pope.
I would agree with that. I would agree going back to these really old versions
afterwards,
which have a certain grandiosity to them. Once you kind of already know, line by line, book by book, how the story flows, and you'll understand it better.
Because what's the point of reading a second time if you're just going to prioritize efficiency again?
Sure.
What? Like you just did that to get it over with. Why are you coming back to it? You want the beauty. Well, here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Alexander Pope's got it for you.
So those are Chapman and Pope. Let me read Lattimore.
Okay, I can do Fagles whenever you want.
And then we'll go Lattimore, then Fagles, and then I'll come back to Mendelssohn and Butler and Wilson, maybe. So in comparison to that lovely English poetry we just heard, this will sound a lot more blunt and a lot less poetic to the English ear.
But
this is closer to the structure and wording of what the Greek would have been. Tell me, Muse, of the man of many ways, who was driven far journeys after he had sacked Troy's sacred citadel. Many were they whose cities he saw, whose minds he learned of, many the pains he suffered in his spirit on the wide sea, struggling for his own life and the homecoming of his companions. Even so he could not save his companions, hard though he strove to. They were destroyed by their own wild recklessness, fools who devoured the oxen of Helios the sun god. And he took away the day of their homecoming. From some point here, goddess, daughter of Zeus, speak and begin our story. I still think that's quite readable.
Lattimore's not unpoetic. It's still good. It's just it prioritizes the Greek over the poetry, the English poetry.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Let me do Mendelssohn's version here. As a direct comparison to Lattimore because it's like I said, maybe one step removed from Lattimore, but closer than Fagles or Wilson are. So here's the Mendelssohn version. Tell me the tale of a man, Muse, who had so many roundabout ways to wander, driven off course after sacking Troy's hallowed keep. Many the peoples whose cities he saw and whose ways of thinking he learned. Many the toils he suffered at the sea, anguish in his heart. And he struggled to safeguard his life and the homecoming of his companions. But he did not save his companions even so, though he longed to, for their heedlessness destroyed them, theirs and nobody else's. Fools that they were, like children, who devoured the sun god Hyperion's cattle, and so he took from them the day of their homecoming. Goddess, start where you will, daughter of Zeus, share the tale with us too. So
we haven't mentioned, by the way, that this intro gives away the entire story at the very beginning. The whole
this
thing.
Is again
there is no mystery.
It shows how different the priorities of storytelling were in the old world versus today. You're spoiling the story before it even starts.
But this is a story that people grew up hearing. They already knew it.
They're hearing it again.
Yes.
It's like a song being sung again and again and again. I'd like to hear the story of Odysseus again.
Right.
Poet or minstrel. Like sing me that story again. Right. That's the spirit in which this is written, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah. And then Fagles. Yeah, Fagles there.
Fagles.
Oh, you memorized Fagles. That's
yes,
right.
I have. Except for that one line about Hyperion. I don't know why I never. Sing to me of the man, Muse, the man of twists and turns, driven time and again off course. Once he had conquered plundered the hallowed heights of Troy. Many cities of men he saw and learned their minds. Many pains he suffered, heartsick on the open sea, fighting to save his life and bring his comrades home. By the way, count these. Many pains he suffered, heartsick on the open sea. He's doing a 7-step meter, right? Yeah. Fighting to save his life and bring his comrades home, but he could not save them from disaster, hard as he strove. The recklessness of their own ways destroyed them all. It's very rhythmic.
Yeah.
Launch out on his story. Muse, daughter of Zeus, start from where you will, sing for our time too.
Yeah.
And so I love the rhythm of it, but I'm noticing it's a 7, which is interesting. It's not the hexameter,
Right.
it's a septameter.
Whatever
I guess
that would be.
Whatever the heck that would be. But he's doing 7, whereas it was 5 for Pope, and then 6 for Lattimore. It's 7 for Fagles. So you'd think that would mean longer, but he's packing
It's
more into it.
syllables more than words. Yeah.
Exactly. And then of course, they killed the Hyperion. I always skip that part, but I don't know. I don't even know why. But when I gave it to my kids to memorize, we just skipped that part.
Yeah.
Fools, those fools. But another thing I want to mention is, when he says sing for our time too, there's other translations that say something like sing to us as well, right? Meaning, and this is like a translator's choice, meaning tell the story of humanity. This isn't just the story of a man. This is the story of the man as such, as we all are, right? This is our story. It may be another reason why the Odyssey is still read so many millennia later, right? This is kind of a story of this is like a human story of men and how things are.
Yeah.
And so when they say sing for our time too, it's like, this is still relevant.
And I wanted to really put a point on that. Sing for our time.
Yeah.
The minstrels today, the storytellers today,
you can't fault them for
that's part of the spirit of the story is what I'm getting at.
Right.
It's meant to be sung for our time.
Yes.
And that's part of what I think Nolan's trying to do in his film adaptation.
There you go. He's singing it for our time too.
Let me read Butler's real quick. And this one is written more like prose, like a novel or something. Yeah. Tell me, O muse, of that ingenious hero, really different there instead of man of many ways, who traveled far and wide after he had sacked the famous town of Troy. Many cities did he visit, and many were the nations with whose manners and customs he was acquainted. Moreover, he suffered much by sea while trying to save his own life and bring his men safely home. But do what he might, he could not save his men, for they perished through their own sheer folly in eating the cattle of the sun god Hyperion. So the god prevented them from ever reaching home. Tell me, too, about all those things, O daughter of Jove, from whatsoever source you may know them. I like that. It's again, very readable version.
Yeah.
And then we have Emily Wilson's, and then we'll kind of end this section on the literature portion of this discussion here. Told you guys. You have to really, really show me you care about this if we're going to keep doing it. All right, here's Wilson's. Tell me about a complicated man, muse. Tell me how he wandered and was lost when he had wrecked the holy town of Troy, and where he went and who he met, the pain he suffered on the sea and how he worked to save his life and bring his men back home. He failed, and for their own mistakes they died. They ate the sun god's cattle, and the god kept them from home. Now, goddess, child of Zeus, tell the story for our modern times. Find the beginning. I want to mention two things there. All of these are essentially saying the same thing in different words.
Exactly, yeah.
So when we're talking about faithfulness, we have to get real nitpicky.
Yeah.
It's still more or less saying the same thing. But she says a couple of things here. She says, tell me about a complicated man, describing Odysseus. Yeah. And then she says, the holy city of Troy.
She's very English. That's very English of her.
That's kind of that English
going back
tradition,
millennia, that is
siding with Troy, kind of like take on this, where they paint Odysseus as being sort of psychologically tortured, having guilt over what happened in the war.
The trauma, all that
A
stuff.
lot of takes of this story paint him in that way. I would say of the film versions we're going to talk about, Nolan's version very much does this, as does The Return, the 2024 take with Ralph Fiennes. His version also paints Odysseus in that way.
Okay.
There are other versions that paint him as the hero. I would say the 1997 miniseries kind of has more of that take on him.
Yes, definitely.
And so whether you're seeing Odysseus as a complicated man, a
or
man
hero
who is psychologically tortured and guilt-ridden and unsure of whether he deserves a homecoming or whether he even wants one unconsciously, or a version of him that paints him as this extremely cunning, maybe hyper-intelligent, crafty, articulate, storytelling kind of man. That's probably closer to what the Greek version painted him as. Arguably, there's been way more scholarly analysis on that, and maybe people will tell me I'm totally wrong.
Sure.
But that's my understanding of like kind of the two directions that the different versions of this story tend to go. And whichever flavor you're in the mood for, it exists for you.
My goal is, because I've read several of these, my goal is just to read as many translations of the Odyssey as I can before I die. So really, it's just a matter of preference. Like I will probably read Emily Wilson's at some point. That's not my preference for poetry. But you know, reading that after Alexander Pope is a pretty stark contrast. But at some point, it's like I'm in the mood for a new thing. Let's try it out.
Yeah.
And each translation highlights a different aspect of the story that I wouldn't have gotten from, you know, Chapman.
So anyway,
by the way, Chapman also mentioned the heavenly high walls of Troy, talking about maybe it doesn't say like sacred or holy, but you know, it's at least referencing heaven, speaking about Troy.
Right. The last thing I want to say about the literature side of the Odyssey is that some people might be surprised to find out that it is not told chronologically at all.
Oh, this is crazy. This is one of the earliest stories we have of any kind. And it is doing what we nowadays consider a Christopher Nolan Memento cinematic trick.
Which is why, in some ways, his version is faithful in its structure.
Because he already likes to do that.
It jumps around a lot to different times and things like that.
That is crazy. That some of the oldest stories we have are in media res. It makes me think that complex stories have been told for a very long time before we even get to the ones written down. Gilgamesh, Iliad, Odyssey, and all that.
Right.
These stories the Odyssey is a complex story. It is a very complex story about a very complex person. Stories have been being told for so long before that.
Yeah.
It just has to be.
So in the original poem, the original work, it starts with the suitors already having been invading Odysseus's home for some time.
Yeah.
And it's the POV of Telemachus more. Actually, I should say before that, it starts with the gathering of the gods.
It's the council of the gods.
The council of the gods, where Zeus finally decides, yes, it's time to allow Odysseus to come home.
Yeah.
He had his problems with the crew because, as it said there, they ate the cattle of Hyperion. And Zeus,
angered Poseidon, and they're like,
Poseidon
these gods are pissed.
Poseidon was pissed the whole way through.
Yeah.
Zeus became pissed because Hyperion complained they ate my cattle. Zeus begins by sort of just lamenting the circumstances behind Agamemnon's death.
Yeah, Aegisthus and Orestes.
Who had married his wife while he was gone.
Yes, Aegisthus showed up. They don't mention that in Nolan's movie, by the way.
Aegisthus and Agamemnon's wife conspired to murder Agamemnon.
Yeah, Clytemnestra.
And the gods tried to tell him, don't do that. Big mistake.
Yeah, Hermes, in no uncertain terms.
And he did it anyways. Yeah. And so then Agamemnon's son
Orestes,
takes revenge. And so Zeus is lamenting this, like, I tried to tell you not to do that.
It's like, mortals, they never listen to me. They blame the gods for all their misfortunes, yet it is they who wrought the worst fate.
And then Athena walks in and was like, who cares about that? Odysseus is the one I'm worried about. Did you forget about him?
And Zeus is like, what do you mean? He's the most godlike of all the mortals. Yeah. How could I forget Odysseus?
And so she pleads on Odysseus' behalf, please allow it. It's time. He's been through enough, don't you
Zeus
think?
More or less agrees.
And Zeus says, fine, yes, I agree, it's time. So send Hermes to Calypso's island to tell her that she needs to let him go. Let my people go.
No, let my person go. Remember, it's not anthropon, it's andra. It's the man. It is singular.
So that's where it starts. But Athena says, before or while you're doing that, I'm going to go talk to Telemachus, Odysseus' son, and give him some courage and try to like get things in motion for his homecoming. So she goes in disguise as a beggar and talks with Telemachus, and Telemachus explains the predicament he's in. He's just really a boy at this time, about to become a man. And what can I do? These people are invading my house and eating all of my cattle and stealing all of my freaking stuff. And I can't do anything about it. He's complaining.
Right.
And Athena puts in his heart, well, you should go out. And of course, she's in disguise. You should go out and look for him and search for news. You should go back to the mainland of Greece, to Sparta and to Pylos, and speak with the kings there and see what they know. And if they know something and there's a possibility he lives, wait one more year, as hard as that might be, for him to come back. If they say he's dead, then tell your mother to go back to her father's house and he can marry her off to one of these suitors.
Isn't that interesting that Athena is like, Helen can do what she wants. Helen is much more concerned,
Penelope?
Athena.
Oh, Athena.
Sorry, I meant Penelope. Athena is much more concerned with reuniting Odysseus with Telemachus than reuniting Odysseus with Penelope. Athena's like, Penelope can do what she wants. I'm going to get you back in touch with your father, right? Yeah. It's fascinating because of the way the poem ends. Athena kind of seems to write Penelope off a little bit. And Penelope emerges as a very strong and wise character herself.
Yes.
But she is it's very I just thought that was fascinating.
In the English versions that go for the Greek, I think they always describe Penelope as clear thinking or something along those lines.
The queen of matchless cunning is the way it's described in Fagles.
Yeah.
The queen of matchless cunning.
Yeah. They put that descriptor for her almost every time her name is mentioned.
Yeah.
Penelope, the clear thinking woman or whatever it is. Anyway, so Telemachus goes back to the feasting and he begins taking that role. He begins talking back to the suitors, dismissing them. She tells him to call on the a council of like the men of status, the nobility of the land surrounding. It's probably a good time to mention that the way that Greece was broken up politically in this time in the Bronze Age was just like a network of palace kingdoms,
city-states
or palace states, you could call them.
Sure.
And those regions were something the size of what we might call a county in the U.S.
Small.
Or they're small.
Yeah. Odysseus is a king, but not like
lots and lots of kings.
There were tons of kings,
and these kings were kind of united in this sort of network of palace kingdoms.
Right, and Agamemnon was just the most powerful king,
the highest ranking, I guess, of all those kings was Agamemnon. So, and I suppose for those who really, really aren't familiar with the story here, the reason the war is fought in the first place is because Agamemnon's brother, Menelaus, had a wife who was the daughter of Zeus, I think, and immortal.
Yes, and immortal. Yes. Yeah, she was both. And she was said to have the appearance of Aphrodite.
Yeah.
And so Paris, with the golden apple, the whole thing.
Paris is from Troy.
Yeah, Paris.
He's a prince of Troy who came to visit Menelaus in his house.
He kidnaps her, along with other things.
Depending on the interpretation, she went willingly.
Yes.
There's many versions. But
it's complicated. She's also complicated.
For the sake of just clarity in this very surface level summary, he comes and takes another man's wife and takes her back to his city.
Whether she wanted to leave or not is debatable.
And the reason why all of Greece goes to war over this is because most of those Greek kings were suitors for Helen.
Yes. And Menelaus won.
Menelaus was selected.
Yeah.
But Agamemnon was there. Odysseus was there. Many of the kings were there.
And they all agreed, like, okay.
Yeah. This was Odysseus' idea, by the way.
Yes. To split
Odysseus' idea was, if no matter who is selected, the rest of us have to take an oath to defend that marriage.
Yeah.
And the reason he did that was in case he was chosen. So he was to protect himself.
That's pretty good.
This is the cunning side of Odysseus, right? Yeah. He suggested that. And so they all had to take an oath once Menelaus was selected that they had to protect the honor of that marriage. So when Paris comes and takes Helen away to Troy, they are all bound by an oath to go to war.
They have to
fight for the honor of
It's like a World War I. It's like the treaties that kind of pulled everybody in.
Exactly. So, okay, back to Telemachus. He's kind of trying his best to sound authoritative, get out of my house. We've had enough of this already.
And he's about, what is he at this time, 19 or
something
18
like that.
Or 19?
He's in the range of about to become a man. It's time for him to become a man.
Yeah.
He calls the council. The council comes. They won't defend him. I'll just make that really short. Yeah. So he says, fine, I'm going out to look for my father, and basically lays it out. If I go and find out he's dead, I will come back. My mother can go back to her father, and he can give her hand in marriage, and we can settle this for good. If I find out he's alive, we'll wait 1 year and see if he comes back, and then at that time we can proceed. That's how he lays it out. He takes a ship and leaves. The suitors don't want him to come back. They're plotting to murder him in some way or another. But he goes and he talks with Nestor in Pylos. And then he talks with Menelaus in Sparta.
Yep.
and he learns what he can about his father, the type of man he was, more so than his fate.
Sure.
And begins to sort of understand the type of man his father was.
He never knew his father. He never knew his father, and his father's been gone for
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
And he's just, to hear stories from your mother is one thing, or the people around you. To hear stories from someone who fought with him in war, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
So Menelaus kind of presented a version of Odysseus that Telemachus was unaware of, and slowly gained to have more respect for his father, I think.
So the entire purpose of sort of that setup, I think it's about 4 books or chapters, is
you don't see Odysseus once.
Odysseus does not appear
until book 5.
Large portion of the story.
Yeah.
And it's more or less setting up the kind of man he was in the eyes of those who knew him either as his slaves or servants or as his fellow kings and soldiers in the war. And Telemachus is learning this from hearing those stories.
Yes, and this is wonderful. Unfailingly kind words said about Odysseus by everyone.
Yep.
And then book 5, we see Odysseus, and he is weeping on the beach.
Yep.
He is covered in tears and just screaming to heaven, like just missing his old life. That is not the introduction that most heroes would get, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the first time we see Odysseus, and he's a mess.
Completely broken this point.
Yeah.
This is at the almost end of his Odyssey.
Yeah.
He's with Calypso at this point. He's been there for 7 years and cannot leave.
Yeah.
And he's just at wit's end. There's nothing left he can do, and he's just grieving every day.
Man.
And she wants him to forget his life and live with her instead. And she's compelling him to do that, and he doesn't want to. But that's when Hermes shows up and Zeus says he has to go. And she tries to complain.
She's so mad.
They only resent me because I'm a woman who's trying to sleep with a mortal. You don't like it when us women do it. There's some, as is often the case, some truth in that. But also you're compelling a man who doesn't want to be there to be with you.
And it's very clear. He is an unwilling participant.
He's not consenting to this.
Yeah.
So anyways, they build a raft. She finally lets him leave. Essentially, Poseidon comes and wrecks his ship again. And books 5 through 8 are him arriving at the Phaeacian kingdom, depending on whether you spell it with a C or K in different translations. And which is another kingdom. He's not familiar with it. He gets taken to their king.
They're kind of an advanced society.
Yeah,
by the way.
It's almost described
kingdom.
like a place between the mortal world and the world of the gods.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Phaeacians are like somewhere in between those two places.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway,
and that's very appealing.
But Nausicaa is the princess, the daughter of this king of the Phaeacians, who invites him into their house where they clothe him, they feed him before they actually ask him who he is.
Yes.
We're going to talk about this a lot when we get to the Nolan version of the film because it's very, very centered on this culture of xenia, or
like how you treat a guest.
Or like the way you treat guests and strangers in the culture. We will return to this. It's very important in Nolan's version. But they clothe him, feed him, give him a place to sleep, even prepare a ship to help him get home before
with men, with
50-something sailors to help him get back before they even ask him who he is, or why he's there, or is he an enemy?
Crazy overkill. I know that's part of it. That's part of it. They don't know. But people don't come to their kingdom often. They're kind of like, how did you get here? Like of all people, and they also, it says many times, Nausicaa, first of all, she likes him.
Yep,
and it kind of mentions that he has the appearance of maybe a god.
Yeah, he's got those little, what'd you call it? Like descriptors that they put before everyone's names. They always say the god-like Odysseus.
The god-like Odysseus, which was Achilles. But by the way, it was, I believe in the Iliad, it's Dios Achilles is the way they put it. Godly Achilles.
Yep.
And Fagles translates it brilliant, but really what it is godly Achilles. But then we see at the beginning of the Odyssey, Zeus is saying, it's actually Odysseus who's the most godlike of all the mortals, right? Achilles kind of, he went for glory instead of nostos, which is like home.
Yep.
Instead of home, he picked glory, and he dies. And he
regrets that.
He regrets it later, yes. But this is important to notice. Odysseus wins the glory.
Yes.
That should have been Achilles.
Right.
But it's because Odysseus is the one who gets the glory for sacking Troy. Odysseus is the one who gets both. He gets to come home and have the glory.
Because Achilles
of the hero.
died before they were able to get through.
Yeah,
the
they didn't even
defenses.
get into the walls.
They hadn't conquered Troy yet when Achilles was killed in battle.
So they could tell this man is favored of the gods, right? We're going to treat him extremely well. And Nausicaa really likes him. But the way Nausicaa is described is that she is also a very wise and beautiful woman. Nausicaa is almost like a younger version of Penelope.
Yes.
Right. And we didn't mention, not Ceres, but the girl, Calypso. We didn't mention Calypso, that she had offered him immortality. She had offered him, like, he has been having to turn down things that, like that Paris, for instance, couldn't turn down.
Yes.
Like he has been turning down things that Achilles wouldn't have turned down. He wanted, like, the idea of immortality, to live as a god with a goddess who is more beautiful than any mortal woman. And then he goes, no, I just want to go home. I just want my wife. And then he is presented with a younger version of Penelope in a utopian society. And no, I just want to go home. I just want to see my wife. And I think there's a line in, is it Fagles or Lattimore, where he says, there is no greater sight to the eyes than one's own country, basically. Like he just, as much as you're giving me things that most people would never say no to, but I just want to go home, right? He's got this kind of focus, this single focus, that some people criticize him for, because he's willing to sacrifice other people so that he can get that thing he wants.
Home.
And Nolan won't let you forget that. I'm aware. But okay, so that was the temptation there. He's having to say no to all sorts of temptations. I want to come back to Calypso later, because there's another one that she offers as well. So basically he shows up to the palace, and finally he weeps. I think he weeps
because
he gives himself away briefly,
singing
the Iliad,
the song of something
of
like that, the tales of Troy,
and he weeps, and the king notices and is like, he kind of guesses.
You seem like you were there, and then
he begins telling
his story of the Odyssey in books 9 through 12.
That's the majority of the movie.
Yes, and it's the majority of almost every version for the screen that I can think of is the actual trials and all the monsters he encounters and this crazy stuff that happens. When you think of the Odyssey, you think of that long period of on the sea, going from island to island and being chased off and people dying in these horrific ways. That is like not even a third. It's like a sixth of the total,
there's 24 books
of the total story here. Is him telling his own story of that wandering, books 9 through 12. And then after that, the entire second half
at home
of the story is him getting home and taking it back, and the suitors and all of that. That's the longest part of the story. So this shortest part of the story almost is what we usually consider as like what's spent the most amount of time being covered in like the screen adaptations of the story. That's crazy. So that's the order in which the story is told. Telemachus hearing about his father from the people who knew him and going out looking for him. Odysseus finally escaping Calypso, arriving in Phycia and telling his story, and then his return. That's like the order in which the story is told in the original poem. So I feel like we've done enough talk in establishing like what it is, its origins, and its poetic sort of like structure and the chronology or the order in which the story is told. Now I think it might be a good time to get into the adaptations in the modern day and the different takes on this and what they get right, what they focus on as sort of their main thematic aim or goal, and where they sort of succeed or maybe even what they get wrong here and there. So as far as screen adaptations goes, I believe there was a version way back in like the silent film days.
Oh, really?
That is, I don't even know if you can see it or not. It's not even like what we would consider feature length today.
Okay.
It's just a guy cranking a freaking camera, silent film, like, you know. But,
on a stage.
But if you've seen images from it, quite impressive on the side of production in terms of sets and and costumes and things of that nature. I was kind of like, oh wow, like
I'd love to see it.
This is pretty impressive for what it is. But most people will talk about screen adaptations starting with 1954's Ulysses.
Okay.
With Kirk Douglas in the role of Odysseus. I watched this, or at least many scenes from it. I think you have looked into it a little bit as well. It's very much got that 1950s era Hollywood flavor to it.
It feels a bit like the Ten Commandments. Like
yes, if you've seen that.
Yeah, Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston's Ten Commandments. It's very big and theatrical in its performances and style and in the costumes and design. It is also a very impressive production on that side of things. It feels very big and very epic. It just depends on whether you like that flavor, the way the people spoke and the style of filmmaking of the time.
Right.
But I was quite impressed with the Cyclops sequence.
Yeah, that was cool.
In that version. I was expecting something much less.
Yeah.
Maybe like a claymation or something that
like
looked,
Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah, something that would not age well. But I think that the effects actually age quite well in this version. And it was directed, that specific scene and the effects were done by a legendary horror filmmaker from Italy named Mario Bava.
Okay.
Who I wrote down a little bit here about like how he's considered in terms of like his legacy as a filmmaker. He was an Italian filmmaker who worked variously as a director, a cinematographer, special effects artist, and screenwriter. His low-budget genre films, known for their distinctive visual flair and stylish technical ingenuity, feature recurring themes and imagery concerning the conflict between illusion and reality, as well as the destructive capacity of human nature. Widely regarded as a pioneer of Italian genre cinema and one of the most influential and greatest filmmakers of all time, he is popularly referred to as the master of Italian horror and the master of macabre.
Wow.
He was hired to assist with Ulysses, 1954's film, the special effects on that film, but wound up serving as a camera operator and an uncredited co-cinematographer for the entire film's shoot.
Wow.
He also directed the Cyclops segment, likewise uncredited. So if you don't watch anything else from that version, that scene is pretty great.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job. I was not expecting it to look as good as it does based on the time period it came from, but it's all shot practically, and I think the special effects are quite good in that movie. It's not the most faithful of tellings. They skip a lot of points.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, kind of changes made to certain characters. They use Ulysses rather than Odysseus. Not that that makes it unfaithful, but that's just understanding the flavor of like the tradition it's coming from.
Sure.
But I think it's worth watching. I thought it was pretty cool. And Mario Bava, who directed that Cyclops sequence and did the visual effects, he also directed the episode of the 1968 Italian series version. That was that Cyclops.
Yeah.
That whole episode was directed by him, and he did all the special effects for that version too. So
which
he's
is
a beast.
also quite good. It's even longer in that one.
Yeah.
I think in the 1954 it's like 3 or 4 minutes. The 1968 version it's like 8 or 9 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit longer.
That 1968 Italian version is also considered to be probably the most faithful screen adaptation of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
It covers almost everything. I think it's the only screen adaptation that covers the Lotus Eaters.
Yes, the
portion.
Lotus Eaters, yeah.
I don't think any other version covers that at all. Nolan's version includes Lotus in an interesting way that we can talk about.
It kind of combines them, yeah.
Yeah. And I have a specific take on his use of the Lotus in his movie. But that island is almost always skipped in the screen adaptations. It's just always not considered
There's no action.
One of the more exciting sequences to show. And so they kind of skip it in a lot of versions. This version has that in it. I have not seen it. I didn't have enough time in preparation for this. I do want to go back and watch it.
I skipped around. It's like 6 hours long. I didn't watch the whole thing.
The longest
but I
screen
watched
adaptation,
some of it.
for sure.
Yeah.
So it has more time to cover more stuff. But I've heard it's great. And
I thought it was good.
The actress, sorry, didn't write her name down, who plays Penelope
Oh yeah.
in that version, plays Odysseus's mother in the 1997 miniseries,
Yeah.
which is
So good.
a great version.
It's so
That's
good.
the version I watched in high school. You watched it for the first time. That's the
Just
next
this week.
screen adaptation.
That we're going to talk about.
So I bring up those two versions. I'm not as familiar with them.
Right.
I'm much more familiar with the 97 version onward. And so we'll get into a lot more details on those. And then, of course, Nolan's, which is the most recently released. Yeah. But you just watched it for the first time, the 97 version. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so fun and exciting and wondrous, interesting. I loved it. I loved it so much. I watched it after I watched Nolan's Odyssey.
Yeah.
And it was funny because 1997, and this was maybe a lower-ish budget. The practical effects are mostly good, but sometimes weird and awkward.
Yeah.
The way that the prophet, the soothsayer on the beach, says, "Beware of the gifts of the Greeks," basically, when the Trojans are bringing the Trojan horse into Troy.
Oh, right.
So anyways, but then this weird like serpent comes, and it's like, the effects are, but Scylla and Charybdis were really good.
Charybdis is
really
awesome.
well done. And then even the Cyclops, like I think the 1997 version of the Odyssey is just the best one that's been done. And maybe it treats Odysseus a little bit more like a hero. Maybe it's more of the Samuel Butler style take on sing to me of the hero, who did all these things and he was super heroic. But it's fun. It's funny in a lot of ways. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I don't know, if you want a super serious version of this movie, watch The Return.
Yeah, for sure.
Very serious, right? It takes 10 seconds to deliver one line because they're just good acting though. But this is the one it's more fun, and it's more the way I remember reading the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Not only when I was younger, but every time I read it, like it has these fun, interesting, funny moments. Like things like this happen. And the character of Odysseus is not this solemn. He's not. I mean, okay, when we first see him, he's weeping on the beach. I know. I wanted
to point that
I did mention that.
I've been struggling to know how to describe what you're getting at, because there's a part of me that goes, the sense of adventure and magic of the Odyssey is captured really well in the 97 version.
Absolutely.
In a way that it isn't captured in the more recent takes.
Yes.
But it's not quite right to say that Odysseus wasn't tortured, because he did in the original poem. He definitely struggles with this weight that he's carried from these years and years of horrible stuff he's been through. So that is in the original story. It's in the original Greek poem.
It's not there.
But it's not the single note and tone of the story.
Right.
And I feel like the 1997 version captures more of that give and take, that contrast in tones.
There you go. Yes, it's not monotonal. That's actually a very good point. And it's really good because Odysseus is a braggart. Like when they leave the Cyclops, he stands up on the boat and he's just like, "Hey, it was I, Odysseus, who did this to you," and it's like, and his crew are like, "Why did you do that? Why did you tell him who you were?" And it's like, clearly that was a mistake. You shouldn't have done that, but he couldn't help but do that because he's a fun, exciting person who does rash things often. And so sometimes when you'll get a scene like that, for instance, in Nolan's Odyssey, where Matt Damon is like, I guess the version of that they have him do is he shoots an extra arrow at the Cyclops and then runs away, and he's just like, "Oh, but he just killed our." It feels very out of character when Matt Damon does that stuff. Whereas when, what is his name, Armand Assante, when he does those things, it fits perfectly because it actually captures the whole range of Odysseus's character. Yeah. Whereas Nolan and The Return, Rafe Fiennes are trying to capture one specific slice of Achilles.
Yeah,
or of Odysseus. Why do I keep saying that?
I love Armand Assante in this film. He's so
good.
Part of it is that
good.
I watched this film as part of all of this stuff I pulled up here. It was part of all of my inspiration.
But I didn't.
In the English class.
I still love it.
And so I'm sure there's a part of me, those of you who are in the gaming sphere would call it blinded by nostalgia.
Yeah, I wasn't. Doesn't matter.
I loved his performance. I loved his presence as the character.
Absolutely.
And I loved his accent too.
His accent
it's not
was good,
like a British accent or like a lot of these other takes are on it.
It was more Mediterranean.
But he's like a New Yorker. He was born in New York City.
Oh,
so
really?
Like,
he looks like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, but he comes across as feeling sort of authentically Greek to me almost. And that's not to say that this film necessarily is perfectly capturing that. They have like a guy with a Jersey accent playing the god of the wind.
Poseidon this, Poseidon that. Poseidon's a bully. He's my cousin. He's arrogant. He's selfish. He forgets that the sea is nothing without the wind. And who is the god of the wind?
Aeolus.
For Aeolus.
The Aeolian winds. Yeah,
so like that's actually one thing I wanted to mention about it is it really does slip between this sort of epic like scale and just like really crazy, horrifying stuff happening. I feel like the Scylla scene is a quite terrifying scene in the 97 version.
Shoot. It's brutal.
Really different from, say, Nolan's take, which is probably more faithful to the description of the narrow way versus the whirlpool.
I see.
The 97 version's a little more liberal, and they're almost like going through a cave.
Yeah.
And then there's a waterfall that falls into the mouth of Charybdis, which is not necessarily how the so it's not faithful on that account.
It's not described,
but it is. It what I'm trying to say is it weaves between these different tones and feelings, where it can be really cool and epic, and it can be incredibly silly and almost dumb.
But I love it. I love it in the way that I love SNES games.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like Odysseus's men in the 97 version are much more buffoonish and cartoonish.
Sure.
And almost just stupid.
Right.
And they even move and act that way. Like they'll kind of run around like, and it's almost cartoonish is the best word I can use.
But
almost
remember,
like they're acting for the kids in the audience to a sense, to like give the caricature of men who he's having trouble controlling.
Yes.
Something like that versus these more grim, dark, serious takes.
Right.
Where, you know, I might prefer the way the men of Odysseus's crew are presented in those versions, but I don't dislike this either, right?
I see. But remember in the intros that we were reading before, when they were describing his crew in that very first paragraph, the Greek word is nipioi, which is something along the lines of like a young fool, like a young, folly, the fools, the uninitiated is often used that way. But it's like these buffoons. Yeah. And so it is at least faithful to that description. They're nipioi. Yeah. They're not telioi.
But the 97 miniseries is told in chronological order. It starts with the day of Telemachus's birth.
Yeah, that's right. Which was so good. That 97 movie, I'm going to watch that again and again. It is such a fun movie to watch, and it is so good. It is so good.
It's a really lovely note to start the film off on.
Yeah. Just deal with the weird special effects.
It shows his relationship with Penelope in this really sweet way, the way that he's helping her and how much he loves. You can really feel the love and bond they have as man and wife, husband and wife. And he shows the islands to his son at the beginning. And this, you have this sweeping musical score that I really miss from modern epics. Modern epic cinema, I should say.
Yes, I agree.
We grew up in the era of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings that had these Howard Shores the John Williams of that sort of age of Hollywood where they had the sweeping musical scores.
Yeah.
And it's not on that level,
no,
obviously.
Not exactly.
But it has that flavor to it. And I really love that about the 97 version. It has this, again, contrast in its musical score to match the contrast in the tone and in the style that the storytelling takes from place to place that it goes. And that sense of contrast is, I think, what I love the most about it. You can get Odysseus at his lowest or at the points where he makes his worst mistakes, and where you kind of are like, oh, come on. Like,
Right.
and at the points where he is at his most heroic, when he gives his speech to the suitors at the end and the camera is pushing in on him and he's describing their crimes and why
He's
they
so
deserve to die. You're just like in awe
Yeah.
of Armand Assante's performance. It's really incredibly good.
I can't agree more. Yeah.
He's just a beast. And his
He carries a
presence
lot of it.
He carries the film
He
as
does.
he should.
But also like Christopher Lee is in it. He's
Yes.
the prophet Tiresias in the underworld.
Yes.
That whole scene I thought was wonderful. Not exactly the way it's described in the book, but really cool in its own unique way.
The executive producer was Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah,
the
director of The Godfather,
right.
Was involved in this.
Yeah.
So I think it's an absolutely excellent adaptation.
Yes.
It does a
Very
couple
good.
of things that I feel are against the spirit of the Odyssey.
Okay.
But I think I understand the reasons for the choices. It was a matter of limitations, budget limitations probably, and just trying to structure a story with what they had and what they could do.
Yeah.
And that is at the end of the sacking of Troy, Odysseus just randomly walks out to the ocean and starts declaring to all the gods, I did this.
Yes.
I didn't need any of you. And he angers Poseidon.
That is, you're right. Actually, I love the way they did Poseidon in the waves.
Yeah, I like that too.
That is, in a big way though, that is Odysseus. And that's how he is with the Cyclops. That's a good introduction to his character in this way. This is why they're upset, because Odysseus is such a perfect know-it-all, cunning guy that when he defeats the gods at their own game, he sticks it to them.
Yeah.
Right. That is true of Odysseus. It's not true of Odysseus by the end of his journey, but it is true at the beginning of his journey, I think. So even though that may not technically have been in the book, it's like it introduced the character pretty well.
In the original story, Poseidon becomes angered because Odysseus blinded his son Polyphemus, who the Cyclops, who was a son of Poseidon, and because he revealed his name while leaving the island and bragging,
and his father,
that's how Poseidon learns that Odysseus did that, and then has a vendetta for him against him for the rest of the thing. Yeah. In this version, he just declares to all the gods, all of you, I don't need you. I'm better than you guys. I did this myself. I'm such a beast.
Yeah,
I feel like
I see what you mean.
That part of him. I mean, all of these characters feared the gods and sacrificed animals to the gods and prayed at all the temples and were very worried. Maybe not worried's the right word. They were aware that the gods could come in disguise to them at any freaking time. Yeah. And that's, they need to be careful about so I felt like that was maybe just a little bit of a bridge too far to be like that outwardly straight in the god's face.
Maybe like on the nose. I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
I am blaspheming you in this way was, again, I think it serves the story of that version, but doesn't feel necessarily true to what the people of that age, how they would have spoken.
You're right, because you wouldn't do that and then anyways, now I'm going to get on my boat and cross the sea to get back home.
That doesn't.
Please help me out, Poseidon.
That sort of betrays
they wouldn't have done
the cunning, smart, intelligent nature of Odysseus.
You're right.
But you could interpret that as he's just so euphoric after 10 years of fighting that they finally won and it's over. That that's just
the way they portray
his passion is just overtaking him in the moment. So I could buy it in that sense.
The 97 one is also the only one where he actually kills a maidservant, not just,
that's true.
Not just the suitors.
Yeah,
only one.
So let's talk about that for a minute. This is a challenging element of the original story for modern audiences.
Indeed it is. It's kind of brutal the way it's described too, because he has them clean up first.
Yes.
And then is like, hey, out to the gallows.
So slavery was a part of the culture.
Right.
And it wasn't so much racial slavery in the way that we think about it,
was
in
like class.
American culture of today.
Yeah.
Almost anybody could be kidnapped as a spoil of war and then enslaved.
Yes.
I forget the name of the pig or the swine-herder who was loyal to Odysseus. It also starts with an EU.
Yeah. You're
Eumaeus or Eumadius or something.
Eumaeus, Eumaeus.
Something
and
like that.
And the U means good is what it means in Greek.
He was a prince. His father was one of the kings.
He was nobility.
And he was
right.
stolen away by a slave who wanted to escape when I believe it was Phoenician merchants, not Phoenician merchants, different people. Phoenician merchants, I believe. came and they made a deal to help her escape her slavery if she would get the prince. And so he ended up being sold to Odysseus's father. So he was a slave who was a prince originally, right?
That's a good thing to point out.
Anybody in this culture, and this is especially true in the Iliad, they're really afraid of that in Troy.
Right.
Like, I believe Hector speaks to his wife and is like, I'm afraid I see this vision of you being a weaver, a servant woman in Greece after this kind of thing. He's sort of like essentially realizing or accepting the fact that Troy is gonna fall.
Right.
So anyway, almost anybody as a prisoner of war could be made a slave. But slavery was a big part of the culture.
Yeah.
And so this idea of loyal slaves who loved their masters,
this is how the whole world worked.
Is a challenging concept for modern audiences.
Well, just think of whoever you are in wage slavery to right now. And how do you think of your boss?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had bosses I liked. I didn't say whatever I wanted to them. But
What's true is I'm not trying to dismiss it as if that's impossible. Like, I think you could genuinely have love, like a respect and a love within this culture, with an understanding of this is the way things are and accepting it or whatever, and have a genuine like loyalty. I'm not saying that that's not possible or something. I'm saying it's a challenging thing for people today to think of, to put themselves in the shoes of a slave and have loyalty to their masters. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing is these 12 slave women who slept with the suitors throughout their time of being there, that was considered an act of disloyalty that was punished by the 12 women being hanged.
Right.
This is tough for modern audiences for a couple of reasons. One, a slave disobeying a master we don't see as being any kind of sin worthy of death.
Oh, not right now.
But two,
that's true.
Could they have even refused noblemen?
That is one of the movies I think kind of highlights that. It's like, well, I cannot refuse. The way that they played it off, and it may have even been the 1997 one, the way they play it off is like, she was happy to do what the suitors asked.
Yeah, she was aligned with them.
These suitors aren't nobodies. These are they're
noblemen,
the
of
landowners
Ithaca,
around Ithaca.
Yeah.
And these are people to whom the maidservants would gladly, run away with.
Because there's opportunity there to raise their own station.
Yes, exactly.
And there's levels to slavery in this system. Some would have been allowed to own maybe some land to be leaders of other slaves. So it's all very complicated, and it's a whole different time where people thought very differently. And by the way, this is all being recounted by Homer, who comes several centuries after the time he's describing.
Yeah.
So a lot of what would have been anachronisms of his time probably made its way into his poem, where it's not describing the Bronze Age version. It's describing maybe the version of the time he lived in.
Sure.
So there's tons of layers to this, but it's uncomfortable for modern audiences to see slave masters hang their slaves because noblemen came into them and they slept with them because you could argue, had no other choice.
Sure.
So what they typically do in the newer adaptations today is they just wipe that whole part away, unless they just pay reference or homage to it with one particular slave, or maybe a couple who are loyal to the suitors, who end up dying accidentally in the slaughter versus being like purposeful, because that would, in the eyes of people today, immediately diminish the heroicism of Odysseus and Telemachus.
But then we also have to remember that the English did not view Odysseus as particularly heroic.
That's true as well.
Up until Alexander Pope.
Anyways, I think all that's just maybe just worth mentioning as part of the conversation. Where were we leaving? Oh, the 1997 version. So Melanthe is one of these slave women who the one they focus on as being like loyal.
And it was her that betrayed that Telemachus was leaving on a ship and coming back, and that was she was participating in the murder, the attempted murder of the prince. Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's kind of treason, and you kind of don't get to live after that.
In the 1997 version, I don't remember which it is, Antinous or the other, screaming out to her, open the doors, because they're trapped in there.
Right.
And she runs to try to open the door, and then Odysseus shoots him in the back, and the arrow pierces her as they embrace. And that's so they're kind of trying to
That's the closest any of these get to
that element of the story in there without doing the uncomfortable part of it.
Right.
So anyway, 1997 version is it's what the Odyssey looks like in my brain when I imagine its characters and its monsters and its locations. They do change a couple of other details. Circe in this version, I did like this change. I thought it was an interesting take on it. Circe has some kind of power over the way time is perceived in her realm.
Yeah.
In the original, Odysseus chooses to stay there for a year.
He legit stays there for a year.
He stays there with his men for a year.
And his men are kind of like nudging him, like, isn't it time to go now? And like, a year, really?
So he stays as the lover of Circe, another uncomfortable element of the story, willingly for a year. It's not like Calypso, where depending on the interpretation, he's completely forced into that relationship. No consent given, or maybe a little consent, but not like total consent.
But he's stranded on the island.
But
no
he can't
ship.
leave, and this is a goddess who is making him stay there. Yeah. And so there's a sexual relationship between Odysseus and Calypso for 7 years.
Right.
There's a sexual relation between Circe, who turns all of his men into animals or pigs, depending on the version you watch, for a year. But that one is completely consensual and willing on his part in the original story.
I think Hermes tells him, you have to do this, but I don't think he said anything about having to do it for a whole year.
Yeah. But in the 97 version, he's there for what he thinks is a couple of days, and it's actually been years. Yeah. So that's her revenge on him for like getting the upper hand and like not transforming. And so like I liked that, but again, it's a way of sort of trying to clean
making him
Odysseus a little bit so that he doesn't seem like a totally unfaithful man while he expects his wife to have been perfectly faithful.
Yeah.
So, you know, in pursuit of trying to make a heroic protagonist that the audience actually likes, they make these kinds of changes in the screen version.
And they all kind of do this more or less.
In the new Odyssey, the Nolan version, there's basically no sexuality. I mean, I'm certain you could imply it with Calypso, but certainly not at all with Circe. They just totally ignore that element of the sexual. What's the word? His lack of faithfulness to his wife.
Sexual incontinence.
Yes.
Sometimes
there you go.
You could
that's a good
infidelity.
Infidelity.
Yeah,
that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So the 97 version has it. It's comfortable with at least demonstrating this happened.
Yeah.
But it's not comfortable with portraying Odysseus as being super willing. He's in both cases, he kind of feels like he has no choice.
Yeah.
It's like she says, Circe, says, I will not turn your men back unless you sleep with me.
Right.
So he's compelled in that sense.
For his men.
With Calypso, the whole thing is he's being compelled by a goddess. So, but overall, super, super great version. Yeah. Really recommend it. Freaking love it.
And you can watch it for free on YouTube, at least at the moment.
It's while the Odyssey is in theaters and there's a lot of hype around it. And people are excited about the story. You can watch it for free on YouTube. So that's pretty cool. And it's in 2 parts. So 2 episodes, each an hour and a half long.
It was made for TV, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth mentioning that is like significantly changed or... Because otherwise it's a pretty faithful adaptation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I would say where it's most faithful is in its depiction of how the gods interact with people.
It doesn't just ignore the gods completely.
Yeah, it's when you read this story, if you choose to read it, you will see how active, and this is just true of Greek mythology in general, how active the gods are in interfering with the affairs.
Right.
They are literally fighting on the sides of the Greeks and the Trojans in the war, in the Iliad.
Yeah.
And even when Odysseus, the way it describes him when he comes to Phaecia, he feels like he's going to be dashed on the rocks because there's no like smooth beach for him to land on there.
It's very rocky. They describe Ithaca as being very rocky, which is why they don't have the agriculture, like it's mostly like goats and stuff like that they have.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he's afraid he's going to be dashed on the rocks if he tries to approach land. He's like, I'm not going to survive. And they describe specifically, Athena puts it in his mind how to approach to like save himself and land there. So the gods are either taking the disguise of certain people
Right.
in order to interfere.
Which
They
they do
come and
several times.
speak with people directly and tell them what to do.
Mhm.
They appear to others to try to convince them on behalf of somebody. And they are putting ideas in your mind of what you should do. So they are greatly involved constantly and are almost puppeteers on the stage of the world, influencing what happens, yet they don't have totally omnipotent control over it.
Right, they're not omniscient. The
Often-
Iliad kind of states that
Yeah.
even Zeus is not omniscient.
Yeah.
Even.
Or
Yeah.
and even in the beginning of the Odyssey, Zeus is lamenting the fact that we tried to tell you not to do that.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Right.
They try to blame us for everything, but it's their own folly
Yeah,
that
yeah.
leads them to these terrible ends. So while the gods are very, very active and a very active, I mean, showing up, speaking in the poem, in the original epic poem, Athena is disguised as freaking name
Mentor. Yeah.
and goes with Telemachus to Pylos. And in front of Nestor and Telemachus, transforms into a bird and flies away
Like an owl.
out of the disguise as Mentor. And Nestor and Telemachus are just like, whoa, they're like in awe of the fact that this goddess just appeared to them in the form of someone that they thought they knew.
Right.
And then Nestor is like, you are favored of the gods. I have to help you in your
Right.
journey. This kind of thing happens all the time in the original story. And that is very much in the DNA of the 97 miniseries.
Right.
It is not in the most recent film adaptations in The Return and in Nolan's The Odyssey. So maybe let's talk about The Return for a bit.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to talk to you about how you felt about this
I guess.
too much yet.
So Rafe Fiennes is a wonderful actor.
Dude, he's a beast.
He's such a beast.
Also known as Voldemort.
Yes, he was Voldemort in Harry Potter.
Yes.
He's been in a lot of things. He's a very, very well-known actor.
I loved in the end of the movie when he goes and he flips over Penelope's weaving thing.
Yes,
It's basically
the
a
loom.
straight up Voldemort scream. Straight up
That's great.
Voldemort, dude.
What a beast. So he's a great actor. I maybe even like him the best. What I didn't like as Odysseus, actually no, because gosh, Armando Assante is so good. But maybe he's my second favorite of all the Odysseuses. He's just a really good actor, but he's older. You know, he's in his mid 60s now, and it's only the second half of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
It's only him returning to Ithaca. We don't get any of the Polyphemus or the Circe or any of that stuff. So knowing that this is only about the old Odysseus, the weathered, broken man who is still full of cunning, but who is very weary about what he's going to find when he returns home finally. Is my wife still, has she been faithful? Is my son, like, do they even remember me? Do I even remember this place? I know in the book, when he first shows up to Ithaca, I think Athena kind of puts a mist in front of his eyes and he's like, where am I? And like, don't you recognize your own town? And he's just like, what? I don't recognize this at all. And then she lifts the veil and he suddenly, and if you've ever gone to a place that you've spent 20 years away from, I don't know how many,
Changes a lot.
it's crazy.
Been back to Arizona anytime recently?
No, I haven't, but
the place is almost unrecognizable.
I've done like a Google, Google Maps image pin drop thing and Street View, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is this place? This is not what I remember.
Yeah.
And then I finally come to my old neighborhood and to my own, suddenly it's like a veil is lifted. This is
Holy
it.
crap,
I
wait a
remember
minute.
this.
It's been
20
more
years.
than 20 years since we
my
lived
gosh,
there.
You're right. Yeah, 22.
We lived there in high school. That's more than 20 years ago.
Yeah. So if I was to go back there, it would feel as though I would be questioning, are you sure I'm in my old place? Oh, then I would finally see the signs. Yes, it is my own place. So anyways, the way they play it off is with the gods kind of, temporarily blinding him and then lifting a veil. So it's really cool. But he shows up, he recognizes it, he sees where everything is, he sees how everything is. There's a few things they do that I don't love, where it's like Odysseus tries to leave. And that guy has to take his walking stick and shout at him. Like, what are you can't just leave. We know who you are. We recognize you. It's not super faithful. And most of the movies have a tough time being perfectly faithful. But this one takes quite a few liberties in really kind of making him seem just horrifically traumatized by
Yeah.
everything, which is, you're right, it's there in the book. It's not the only thing there in the book, but it is an aspect of Odysseus that is present in the book. And so, Ralph Fiennes just
He plays that part really
part extremely well.
Yeah.
What he can't do as well is when it's time to kill all the suitors and
fight.
they do like a one take, like a minute, 60-second,
Yeah.
just like of him, just like boom, killing all these suitors. And oh man, he doesn't
have the physical sort of athletic presence that say a Matt Damon has, who's been in a lot of action films.
Yeah.
And has probably done a lot of combat training in preparation for those roles. Even Armand Assant, although there's very little of him fighting, and they're really long lens takes where, there's like a lot going on and he's like large in the screen, so you can't really see much of the choreography. But I felt like the other two actors as Odysseus felt more natural in the fighting roles than Ralph Fiennes does.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I loved Ralph Fiennes'
so
presence and just look as the character Odysseus. Like, I think he looks the part, and he has this very like, grandiose sort of or kingly sort of feel to him.
Yes,
for sure. So I really liked that.
I liked it too. There isn't much more to say about it. It's just that one part, and then the way it ends is once again quite ambiguous. But Nolan kind of does that as well. Actually, Nolan is pretty on point, but the way the return ends is like, is he going to stay? Is he going to be the king? What's he going to do after this? But it basically just ends with his wife kind of like washing his wounds, basically, or washing the blood of the suitors off of him, and him just kind of, this is the first time they've been together to talk in a long time. Yeah,
I would say if the 97 version is about a man who needed to be humbled.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
A story of a man who was...
Sing to me the man, muse the man who needs to be humbled.
was overconfident in his own abilities, who placed himself on a higher rung than he should have and blasphemed the gods, and was therefore humbled and sort of like returned as a man with more wisdom and more the hero that he should have been. And Troy, if that's kind of like the take of Odysseus that the 97 version does, the return does more of a... I actually really liked the conversation between Penelope and Odysseus in this version. Penelope, I believe, recognized him way earlier than she does in the original story.
I see. The book is ambiguous about exactly when she knew.
Yeah,
but you're right. It doesn't click for her until the end.
They from a cinematic standpoint, they linger on shots of her recognizing him, and he's trying to kind of hide his face. Because in the original story,
Athena gives him a disguise.
He's disguised as a totally different looking person.
The makeup on Amanda Sante, by the way, in the 97 version,
really good.
Wasn't that really good?
It was really good.
At first, I didn't think it was him.
Yeah.
But then they showed him, and I was like, wow, it was quite well done.
Yeah. So Athena, again, an act of the gods, physically change his appearance to disguise him when he goes back into the palace. In other versions, and I kind of like this too, though it has its limitations as like a way of trying to tell a story. He's just been away for so long.
20 years.
And he's changed, and his countenance has changed out, and maybe mannerisms and just his presence outside of just things like maybe he has more wrinkles on his face and his hair might be longer, his beard might be larger or something.
Which is kind of what they do with Matt Damon.
Yeah, it's like you could see someone having been gone that long, and do you remember the faces of people who you haven't seen in 20-something years?
Some.
I would
couple?
In the modern age,
I recognize them now.
In the modern age, you follow people on social media and you see pictures of their lives through that period. But if you're like truly separated from someone who you knew in high school and you see them again as a 40-year-old, would you immediately recognize them? Yeah. There is something very true about the fact that you change enough in that span of time to where maybe people didn't recognize him right away.
Right.
And I kind of like that too. I like that interpretation of the story where he's just so different. His voice has changed. His appearance has changed. His countenance has changed so much that people can't recognize him, even if he's not disguised, right? I kind of like that take on it, but it does have its limitations in the sense that his wife probably would recognize him. If she's close enough to look at his face close.
Yeah.
And so in this version, she does. And at least that's the way I read it. He's there and she's asking for news about her husband. He's claiming to be a warrior who fought at Troy. And
it's almost
she's
like she dares not hope that it could actually be him.
Yeah. But she's speaking with him and she's looking at him and he keeps kind of trying to turn his face away because he doesn't want to be recognized yet, but she recognizes him. Right. And I think he knows that, but he keeps kind of hiding behind pillars and like kind of staying away from the firelight and is trying not to be seen, but almost is having a conversation where he's testing a theory, which is, can this woman I love the man I've become now?
That's good. I love that.
That is what the Returns core thesis and take on the Odysseus character is. And he says something like, or she says something like, the man that I loved, nothing would have stopped him from coming back in all that time.
Right.
And or would have stopped him from coming to his home or something like that.
Yeah.
And he says, sometimes, or perhaps war becomes a man's home, right? Like they're playing him off as if the war changed him so much and his wandering and his travels changed him so much that he's not sure that she can love who he is now.
Right.
And he's afraid of that.
Yeah.
He's afraid that he has somehow changed into the type of man that he himself doesn't like and that she certainly won't like me. There's an insecurity in this take of Odysseus where he doesn't know if he even wants to be home himself. And there's at one point where he's walking away and Eumaeus, his swineherd comes running. Are you really going to like walk away? You think I didn't know who you were?
Yeah.
Like I was kind of playing along at first, but like, you really don't think I wouldn't recognize you?
Right.
How can you possibly walk away from this? Well, because he doesn't know if he's worthy of it, right? That's the sort of take that Rafe finds Odysseus is doing. And they make his son hate him a lot more.
Oh, a lot more.
But I don't think it's because they're trying to condemn Odysseus's journeys or the choices he made as much as I feel like his son is trying to spur him into becoming the kind of man he wants to love.
I see, yeah.
So, because I thought it was very important that right before, or word comes to them, Penelope is going to choose a husband today. And Telemachus decides he's going to go back. And no, they're going to kill you if you go back to the palace. And he basically calls his father a coward and like, what will you do about it? She's going to marry someone today. Nothing. You're going to do nothing about it. And he walks away. And that can be, you can see that as being like harsh and just like unwilling to understand like what his father's gone through, or having like more of an animosity towards his father than traditionally Telemachus has in other versions of the story.
Yeah.
But then as soon as he shows up in the palace and they're trying to, all the other suitors are like, throw this guy out. We don't want him here. Telemachus stands up and says, he's my guest.
Treat him.
Leave him alone.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the character going from, you won't do anything. I hate you. I hope they kill you in one scene to, he's my guest, to me spoke to, he was trying to spur him to have the passion and anger to be willing to kill these guys.
Yeah.
And once he showed up, he said, my dad's back. Like now he's back.
His dad truly didn't return until he returned in that manner. Right. Yeah. So you're not my dad if you're not sitting on that throne, or at least showing me that you're about to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I while it's, again, if we're going by our matrix here, losing points on the horizontal axis for like not following the surface level details.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily a betrayal of the spirit. It kind of is. It's not going to get high marks there, but it's not a total betrayal, I felt.
Gotcha.
It's not that he actually hates him. He's just suffered a lot. And where have you been? I heard that you were on this island with this woman for years. And have you been unfaithful to my mother? He has questions that haven't been answered yet. And those questions get answered by Odysseus. And when he plans this whole thing with his son together in the original story.
In
this one, he's not willing to talk about that yet because he himself, Odysseus, is not sure he's worthy to even take or to have a homecoming yet.
Right.
So
that's interesting. But didn't he Didn't he deny immortality with Calypso in order to come back?
Yeah, I mean they don't show that in this version. They don't show his time with Calypso here.
They don't, but wouldn't that suck? you tell Calypso no, you leave, and you get to Ithaca, and then you're like, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna walk away and
I
go die in a ditch
see
somewhere.
it psychologically, and I think that's the thing that
I see it psychologically too.
That you have to sort of like, I guess you don't have to. I think that's what these modern filmmakers and storytellers are going for.
Yes.
And I think it's a trend in modern filmmaking and in adaptations of stuff. They want to try to like complicate the characters and make them like richer psychologically and stuff.
And grittier.
I
Gritty
don't
is the word.
know if like, I think there is fatigue for that approach, by the way. I think that...
Well, who pioneered that approach?
Well, Christopher Nolan with Batman, obviously.
Batman's gruff voice. It's a gritty take on Batman.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, interesting.
So, right. Like, I acknowledge all of this, but I do think there's some merit to this. Even if it's maybe played out a bit, maybe if there's some fatigue about it, maybe we've seen it before and we've seen it done well before. And do we have to always do this when we adapt, you know, an ancient sort of hero story or something?
Just focus on the trauma.
Right.
And
do we have to do it every time? I get that. I maybe even share some of those sentiments.
Right, me too.
But I do at least understand the concept that there's a part of you screaming when you're with Calypso, I gotta get out of here and go home. And I deny immortality. And then when you show up, I loved
it's
Rafe
a different thing to actually
finds realizing he was in Ithaca when he's told that. Yeah. He's just like, are you freaking serious? Like there's no
because they put him to sleep. The Phaeacians put him to sleep. And so he didn't really know. He just woke up on a beach.
He just wakes up naked on a beach.
Yeah.
And like, he doesn't know where he is. And he asks, like, where am I? And you're on the island of Ithaca. And just that hits him so hard. And that's where he's like, wait a minute. Am I really ready for this?
Right.
The moment is here. The moment I've been freaking fighting for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm back. Can that really be true? But then, wait a minute. Am I worthy of my wife? Is she going to love me? Is she going to accept me? Is my son going to accept me?
I like it.
Will the people accept me? Yeah. Like all of that burden just starts barreling at him. And so this particular adaptation is sort of a exploration of what that burden of a homecoming might look like.
I see.
And I liked that. I loved his portrayal of that and his performance. I think the acting in this is probably the best acting of all screen adaptations.
Probably. And
even the dialogue and writing is some of the finest of all the screen adaptations.
It's quite good. Yeah, it's quite good.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely taking some liberties. And
the gods are absent.
Gods are almost totally absent. In fact, they might be completely absent. I think in the return, in this version.
They're completely absent.
And there is a severity to the tone that is just like relentless. Yeah. That is just like, it feels so heavy and slow and painful and morbid and hopeless. And that can be kind of fatiguing and a bit of a drag to watch. And I don't think that the Odyssey stays in that lane all the time. I'm talking about the original. Homer's poem doesn't live in that space all the time.
No, it doesn't.
And the return lives in that space all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's missing the magic, it's missing the gods, it's missing the adventure, it's missing. But of course, it skipped all that on purpose. It's just the story of a homecoming. And once again, it's just focused on that.
It's lower budget. They told the story that they felt that they could tell. That's why there's no Cyclops in it.
I actually kind of like that lower budget scale, in the sense that there's not like literally 300 suitors that he's fighting in the end of the movie.
It's like 15 or 20.
It's like more believable. And that's true of the 1997 version too. They lock them all in this chamber and there's, 20, 30 guys.
Yeah.
It's really hard to imagine one guy or maybe two guys killing
over
30 people.
Yeah.
Much less hundreds of guys by himself.
Yes. Well, Telemachus helps in the poem.
Yeah.
And so does the swineherd.
Oh, yes.
But it is the in Nolan's version, I think they make a very fine point that although I think he still kills one person, but it was obviously self-defense.
He was
and whatever.
trying.
They were trying to make it so Telemachus didn't do this.
Yeah,
but
in the poem,
Homer Odysseus is like, all right, son,
Absolutely.
father,
They plan
son,
it together.
let's do this.
It's a bonding moment.
It is. It's actually,
And that's what the 97 version captures really well.
very
Because
well.
he's sitting on his throne and he just says, and he's looking at the suitors and he says to Telemachus, now is the time for your anger. And he just grabs that spear and just freaking throws it like, he spears the guy against the wall.
Oh, that's right. Dude, they show that room afterwards, after everything's done, and there's still people hanging from walls and against doors. It's the guy who got killed. He's still standing. He can't like move. He's just dead standing. Like it's so horrific, but it's crazy. So, I don't know. It's just, it's really good.
That's a difference in the Return too. They try to make that slaying of the suitors horrific to Penelope in a way to where she feels like I'm seeing what you were saying about a man being changed by war, and I don't like what I'm seeing. And also, you're turning my son into that, and I really don't like that either. And that was one element of the Return I did not like, because it doesn't work for Penelope, because this man who he decapitates tried to murder your son literally like the day before.
Do you understand?
I feel no pity for this guy at all.
Yeah. This isn't just a person slighted me. This is the king is the state.
Yes.
You plot against the king or the prince or the queen. You are plotting against the government. It is even to this day, the penalty for treason is death.
Yeah.
You just have to make that connection. Like he isn't just Odysseus. He is the force of the government behind their entire society.
Yeah. So that element, again, I think I know what they're going for, even thematically knowing that it just doesn't work in context because the guy who he kills, she should not feel bad for him at all. And I know it's not necessarily that she feels bad for him as much as she doesn't want to see her husband and son turning into monstrous murderers or something. But that doesn't work for the time period, and it doesn't work for the position they hold. And that was the one thing about the Return that did not work for me at all.
In Nolan's Penelope, she's just like,
she's on board.
Let them
way
burn.
on board, and that works.
It works extremely well. Yeah.
So
in fact, she has many outbursts. Like she is sick of it.
Yeah.
She's sick of it.
I guess that's a good segue into Nolan's Odyssey.
Odyssey. Do we talk about it now?
Let's talk about it.
Well, should we just end the podcast here? Here we are, people.
Here's what I think is the most necessary. I think Nolan himself described it as the key, right, to understanding his take on the movie.
Yeah.
He leans into this in a way to which the other adaptations don't. Like, it's present in those, but it's not explained as like a part of the culture in a very, very serious and important way. And so you might read it and think like, oh, I guess this is just how it was back in the day, or you might be kind of confused about it. But it's this idea of xenia, or what they call in the movie Zeus's Law.
Zeus's Law.
Which is how you treat strangers and guests who arrive at your house.
It's a social contract, and you could say it's unwritten because this is the religion, church and state, all the same thing.
All blended together.
Right. This is how you act socially, all that stuff.
A stranger arrives at your doorstep. You bring them in, you clothe them, you feed them, you give them a place to rest, and you do all of that before questioning them or asking them about who they are.
Right.
And I think the idea was that this was a very like mobile society, a lot of travel and trade, and not a lot of what we would consider like modern hotels.
Not exactly. Not exactly. There were a lot less people in the world at the time. You would travel for many days and not see another person.
You would just show up at a person's house, and the expectation was they will help me.
Right.
I don't even know if they had like formal coin currency in that time.
Oh,
you know, like where you just pay money. You just exchange gifts.
Right.
This is what I have to give to you as a guest. Can you provide a place for me to stay? And it was generally understood that person would take care of you.
Right.
And that there would be a bond between the two of you. And that from that point on, you have a debt to each other.
Yeah, that's it. Creating a debt. I like that.
And that was a way of bonding society and having it function in a civil way to where you could trust people you don't know who will be coming through your town all the time.
And that's why they keep going. Like, I think this happens with the Cyclops, but it's like, don't you know Zeus's law?
Yeah.
And it's like, Well, they don't talk.
Depending on the
They don't
version.
talk to the Cyclops in Nolan's version.
But in the 97 version, he says, we do whatever we want here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we're outside of the realm. And this is the importance of everybody buying into the common religion. Because once you step outside of the people who live in that social contract, then it's like, I don't know what I'm dealing with now. All of a sudden, it's like, well, I don't know how to treat. You mentioned theories of mind last week. The way
anarchy,
how are they going to
chaos.
act? Exactly.
You can get murdered.
Yes.
It's very dangerous to leave your society, which they encourage you to do in this trading mobile society. We're going to be moving around and bringing each other stuff. And I need to trust I'm not going to be freaking murdered by
if
people
I let
coming
you into my house. Yeah.
And vice versa, that you're going to kill me and steal my stuff.
Yeah.
My caravan if I stay at your house.
Yeah. And that's so important, because if you meet somebody who is not of your religion, the laws do not apply, right? Because it's like, I don't know that I can trust you, because under the Hellenistic religion, it was, if you kill a host in their own home, that is like wrath of the gods. Like you're going straight to hell tomorrow. Like you incur the wrath of Zeus, and it is so explicitly understood. If you're bringing in somebody who doesn't know that, then it's different.
Yes.
It's just different, right? And so that's why it's got to be reciprocal. It's a debt that you incur to each other, and it's very easy to understand, and it facilitates trade. All that. So I think you've done a great job explaining it.
So this is an element that is absolutely in the DNA of Homer's poem, but it is culturally understood without having to be explained.
Sure,
so
that's true.
It starts out with Athena going to the house of Telemachus as a beggar, and he is disturbed when he sees no one has welcomed this beggar into his house.
Right.
A beggar, a nobody. He's
nobody.
Disturbed. Yes.
By the way,
I loved
he
that
names
quick
himself
reference in The Return when his son is asking him, "Who are you?" and he says, "I'm nobody." I liked that. It's just a little homage to
that's Homer, though. Homer really did. Odysseus had to become a nobody. It's a joke at first. It starts out as a quip, and it ends up being, even to the Phaeacians, to Ithaca, I'm nobody.
Yeah,
and he's broken.
So he's horrified that no one has welcomed this stranger into his house.
Yeah.
He goes there himself as the man of the house. It's his house, and sits with a beggar and feeds him and offers him a place to stay before they start talking about who are you, why are you here, what do you want? Which is the first instinct of modern people with even just our neighbors who come knock on the door. What do you want?
What do you want?
Why are you here? We're first, we are skeptical.
Yes.
In this society.
I feel like that is modern. That is kind of almost Enlightenment. The idea of just skepticism in general is that is modernity. We are a skeptical people.
We are concerned about your intentions with me.
Yeah.
I don't know you. You might try to harm me. What are you here for? Doors only cracked open. But
some of that also comes from like a multicultural society where it's like, do you believe you're going to burn in hell if you come into my house? Do you believe that? Because if you don't, I can't let you in. I can't let you in. You legitimately believe it. They had sacrifices they would offer and certain gestures. Even when they go into talk with Polyphemus, there were certain ways that they gauged. Like they started using certain, with the Phaeacians, Odysseus, he walks in and he starts making sure that they understand that hail Zeus and Athena. He starts making reference to the gods to make sure they understand that he not only knows about the gods, but pays them reverence.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that I didn't do anything untoward with Nausicaa when she found me in the bushes. I promise.
I promise I didn't.
I am pious to the gods and all of that kind of stuff. I know you can fake that. That's just an important element.
And this is important to mention. It's not like people didn't take advantage of that in the real life.
They sure did.
They did all the time.
Yeah.
But the idea was the social cohesion, the reason that the society flourished was because the idea was you could trust, for the most part, or in almost every case, people are going to welcome you in their home and take care of you, and you will form a bond with them. And there are parts in the Iliad where soldiers on opposing sides realize their fathers had been bonded through Xenia, and that they could now no longer fight each other on that battlefield.
That's right.
And they exchanged armor, and they went back to their opposing sides.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's the social glue
Yeah.
that Nolan is leaning into as the core thematic principle of his take on the Odyssey,
Right.
which I thought was a really cool idea.
I think that was good too, because then he talks about how this unravels. You got to imagine that if a certain percentage of people are going to take advantage and be bad and rob you if you let them into your house, but as long as that percentage stays below, I don't know what it is, but like 1%, 2%, as long as it's a sufficiently small number of people who are going to do that, the majority of the time people are still going to invite people into their home.
Yeah.
But there's a tipping point. There's a point where once you pass, like an event horizon, once you pass that point, the scales tip the other way, and it becomes now
Cascades.
way more beneficial for survival to be skeptical of guests than not. And usually it's a thing that happens. Just maybe it could be economic times, drought, whatever. Suddenly people are more desperate. All of a sudden it becomes more dangerous to let people into your home. Or it could be a war and people returning home from war that screw up the balance of not only the economy and the trade routes and the whole sea, but also violate one too many times the law of Zeus before they return home. And that has a cascading effect to where everybody finally just stops. They just stop with that practice, and the social contract is broken. I think that's kind of where you're getting to, and what Nolan was getting to.
That is,
and it's a really good
his take on this.
It's good. I like it.
And it's interesting because this is what he does as a filmmaker. One, he has a very grave, very serious, almost grim, dark tone to his movies. So you can expect that. You can expect him to try to ground it somehow in some form of either true mathematical principle, if we're talking about interstellar and black holes, or if in this case we're talking about the fall of the Bronze Age and what may have been something that could have been the domino that began that effect. Of course, this is not historical. This is a mythic story that is, these characters probably didn't exist in real life. But what his angle on this is that the Bronze Age fell for A, B, C, D, E reasons.
Right.
One of those was Xenia failed.
Sure.
People stopped trusting strangers. And he decided to make Odysseus's Trojan horse the first domino in the cascading effect that ruined that social trust and glue that eventually led to the end of the Bronze Age. Again, an idea that I think is really interesting and cool, and a nice glue for the thematic core of the film. So loved that sort of angle that he was taking. The only thing that I would sort of like wedge in there as a what about this sort of critique is that Paris did it first.
That's true.
He violated Menelaus's house and definitely broke Zeus's law before the Trojan horse. So I would consider that to be the domino that started this, because Odysseus wouldn't have been there and would not have freaking built a Trojan horse had that not happened. So
this is fair.
Pinning that on Odysseus doesn't really make a ton of sense if that's the filmmaker's view. It can still make sense if Odysseus is taking responsibility for participating in the furthering of that domino effect.
You're right. I want to bring up one other thing too. I think Nolan is aware of that critique, and he one-ups you by he preempts that, I think, in the movie by the conversation with Helen.
Sure.
Because Nolan does something very interesting, not only with who he cast to play Helen, but with the fact that she has scars all over her face.
Yes.
And when Menelaus begins mocking her, you start to realize this isn't the Helen of the Iliad. Nolan is doing something on purpose, different. Nolan is trying to show you that Paris and Helen actually wasn't the real reason for the Iliad.
I like this too. I like this
and
too.
Helen says as much. She says, shut up. We both know that Agamemnon wanted control of the trade routes.
Yes.
He was going to find any excuse to invade Troy.
Right.
And so what you're saying, it wouldn't have happened if Paris didn't do it. Nolan is saying, well, what if Helen wasn't the cause of the Trojan War?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. And now it is Matt Damon's fault. Sorry,
Odysseus.
It is Odysseus. Now Odysseus is the true.
I think
that
that's
cascades that.
I think that's a very, very good point.
Yeah.
And I do think they put a fine point on that in the movie. That
she basically
this
says
wasn't
it out
the
loud.
reason. Yeah, it's kind of on the note.
Yeah.
But I still think that like both things can be true in the sense that
Sure.
Menelaus's reason for going and the oath that all the people took, it really was Helen-centered.
You're right.
But that's not their real
The
reason
real
for
reason.
wanting to fight.
Yes.
They all had the idea of the spoils and the riches they could take home from
Troy
the war.
was the best city in the world at the time.
All of that that's their real
Yeah.
reason for going, even if the oath is their stated reason for
Right.
going.
And the trade
So it's-
routes, that is to the Black Sea, right? Crimea,
Right.
Russia, Georgia, Romania, Ukraine. I'm naming modern countries now, but of course, there were still places and settlements at the time. Even the Silk Road
the Hittites
kind of
and
came
the
around
whatever
there.
was there
Sure,
at the time.
yes.
Yeah.
And then all those ships would all sail through this, I believe it is called a strait,
Yes.
to which Troy was right next to, and Troy could control this.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this happened during the time of Troy, but at least in Constantinople, it's currently Istanbul, but the old Constantinople, they had a metal chain that they would put across that strait.
Yeah.
And when a boat came that did not pay the tribute or that was trying to sneak by without their approval, they would pull the chain taut and it would wreck the boat.
Yeah.
It would just destroy the boat. And they could fire arrows at the boat. It's a small strait, and that's the only way in or out. And so it's like whoever controls that choke point controls
how
a
we were
huge
talking
portion of
about
the economy.
the story. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Please
It's
go.
definitely not appropriate for me as a host of this podcast
It's all
to
good.
treat your host too. But anyways, I apologize for interrupting. It just the thought came to me. The story being applied to our modern times.
Yes, I use the word straight.
It's just there's a similar situation happening.
Yeah. Who controls? There's a few choke points around the whole world. Strait of Hormuz is one of them. The Panama Canal and the canal in Egypt and Israel. What's that? Why am I forgetting? The Suez Canal. And then, of course, between Spain and Morocco is another one. The Cape of Strait of Magellan, and Argentina and South Africa. And then there's one that people don't know much about. There's one in Indonesia where the East Australian current kind of flows through, and that helps China to kind of. It's another choke point that would be very bothersome and then the Bering Strait, but that's all ice up there. So anyways, there's like a dozen or so choke points in the world where if you don't have to control the whole world, you just need to control those points.
Yeah.
And you control the whole world. Well, one of them is right there, right where Constantinople is. And it's that strait. And so it geographically speaking, like geopolitically speaking, it makes perfect sense that Greece being wanting a little bit more influence or whatever, would be like, but we don't get nothing else to get that point right there.
This
And
provided
that's it.
the perfect excuse
Yeah.
to do what they actually wanted, which was take control of
They
that.
call it a Cassius belly. So Helen, it was, this happens all the time, but the Gulf of Tonkin might be a recent incident that people might know about, that you need an event that gets the nation to have an excuse to do what they wanted to do anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So-
Nolan kind of presents that. Some of it's a little on the nose. But
and he's known for that too.
he's known for that. The writing isn't
I think his
perfect
writing,
or even
his
that good.
dialogue in particular, the weakness of it is that he tends to state his themes very bluntly and a little awkwardly on the nose and in ways that don't feel very natural as dialogue.
I felt that heavily.
I love Interstellar,
Yeah.
but there are moments of dialogue in that film that just make me go like, ugh.
Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
Particularly Anne Hathaway talking about love and how it can
sure.
span the universe or whatever it is she says. There are parts in The Dark Knight Rises that are very much like that.
Absolutely.
And Christopher Nolan worked with his brother Jonathan Nolan a lot earlier in his career, and Jonathan's a writer.
Okay.
And so I'm not saying this. People attribute maybe what they would consider better or more polished writing of his early career to his brother Jonathan, and the awkward, maybe not quite as elegant dialogue of his latter career to him. Because he wrote this screenplay.
He wrote this
for
himself.
the Odyssey.
Dang.
So,
well, okay, so because I have lots of critiques about the script, lots.
yes.
But this movie's going to make over $1 billion.
Yeah,
so,
it kind of doesn't matter.
My critique, it's like, what was his purpose? It's worthless to critique somebody on something that they didn't care about anyways.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude McGuy writes here in quotations from the movie,
yes.
Our age of bronze is ending. That's the
Our
kind of
age
thing I'm
bronze.
talking about,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a very like hammer on the nose description through the voice of a character speaking dialogue in a very awkward way of telling you what the point of the movie is. We are all the sea people is another one. Yes.
We are all
so you guys are on board. You know what we're talking about. So that's a weakness of the film, I would say, is the writing in general. And Emily Wilson.
Yes.
We should mention this first.
I read
Christopher Nolan says that Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey is what inspired his take in his film. Yeah. And he like gave a great amount of praise to her translation.
So you would think that she would follow Zeus's law.
Return the favor? No. She came out and lambasted this film, and in particular said the writing is abysmal. And
she would be embarrassed to have written any part of this entire movie. Any part.
Let me just immediately say that I think that's a bridge too far.
Well, it kind of made me respect her a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because she really, because I have felt similarly about some of her translation choices.
Sure.
That like, do you really love this story though? She is showing that she really does feel some, what would you call it?
Passion.
Passion to protect this story, you know, as it is. And, you know, she didn't just take things willy-nilly out of nowhere. She really did a translation of the words. She just made choices that I haven't read at all. I've just seen isolated parts. But then I thought she would have been told. I thought she'd be doing press tours with him because her book sales have gone up.
And she mentioned that. She mentioned that she's very glad
she would know
the film exists.
Because
and she would be a hypocrite. I don't know if that's the exact words, to not acknowledge that she has benefited from this film's success. And that her copy and many other copies written and translated by others are flying off the shelves because of this movie. I bought 5 different versions of the Odyssey just to prepare for this episode.
Nice.
So they're making money.
Yeah.
So she is willing to admit that while also being a incredibly harsh critic of its character development, dialogue, and general sort of writing and structure, and even thematically, she seems to critique it. So I am not on that side of the fence.
So they didn't have a deal.
No,
they didn't.
She felt no need to promote the movie.
Yeah.
Other than to just, I mean, obviously talk about it or critique it, but not to like suggest or praise it as something that you should see.
or to hail it as a return to Homer.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
And as Dude McGuy says here, other classicists have been coming out and critiquing Wilson's critique.
But that's funny because she's the most modern of the translations of Homer that I am aware of. She is the most modern one. And for her, that's fascinating.
So it was interesting to see that. I understand some of the sentiments, though I don't.
Me too.
I'm not nearly as put off, I suppose. Like I'm watching the film, and it's not like the whole time it's going like, oh. Although the characters are talking. It happened a couple times.
It did happen a couple times.
I'm not like the entire movie like thinking, oh, this is awful.
Because she's basically doing that 90s movie, the whole at no point did you manage to make a coherent sentence. I award you 0 points and may God have mercy on your soul. That she's doing that. She's like 0 out of 10. And I'm like, gosh. I mean, I have my problems with the movie. I have huge problems with this movie. Yeah. It's not a 0 out of 10.
No. But that being said, I would be remiss to not at least bring this up in response to that idea that the writing is not great in the film.
It's not, yeah.
We have been talking about Denis Villeneuve's policy on dialogue in films, and that it's not what is said so much as like the effect that it's supposed to be having. He considers cinema something more about the image and the sound coming together to create an effect, and much less about it being spectacularly written and being poetic. And he's like, that's for TV, in his opinion. That's for literature and TV. That's not for films. I don't care if you agree with that or not. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I see his point in that cinema is a very distinct art that should be wowing you visually and audibly, and that it should be telling its story through those methods as a primary like aim or goal, more so than having a beautiful script.
Sure.
That doesn't mean
like
you
a
can't
Shakespearean.
also have a beautiful script and have all of those things come together and just be awesome on all accounts, right? So I'm not saying that, but
yeah, ¿por qué no los dos?
But if you are focusing on that aspect of this film, its scale, I mean, shot on 70 millimeter, IMAX film, its sort of ability to capture the sense of an epic story of this kind in its visuals and in its sound.
Yeah.
The dialogue might not be the most important part on top of those other things.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of other people who saw the film might say that visually and audibly, it is absolutely like riveting in that sense. It's got great action. It's got great choreography and fighting, and the monsters and their designs are very, riveting and whatever. Well, what did you think on that account? Before I go.
Now it comes time to it. I don't feel like parting with it. My review is mine. It's mine own.
Yes.
Yeah. So I came away from the movie disappointed.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't going to watch this movie. I knew what it was going to be, and I was right in what it ended up being. But this is why they do it, obviously, but the reviews were so good,
Yeah.
The people I follow and respect, everyone watched this movie. What am I doing not watching it? It ended up being exactly what I thought it was going to be, and not a movie I really cared to watch. It's not that great, but I will say I didn't love the movie. I didn't really like the movie, but there is much to like about it.
Yes.
There is some terrific acting from some of the actors. Am I being a little too on the nose now? There is some very good acting. I will say in particular, there were two scenes that really moved me, and they came back to back, and I wrote them down. I wrote, the first time I felt a connection to this movie is in the scene between Edward Cullen,
Robert Pattinson.
I guess you
Antinous
Eurymachus,
or whatever his name, Eurymachus,
or is he Antinous?
I don't know.
He could be either. I can't remember his name.
Whatever his name
and
is.
I wish I could watch the movie and like rewind. And anyways, it's just, I couldn't do that because it's in the theater. Between Penelope and, since I don't know which character he played, I guess I'll just call him Edward Cullen. So anyways, that was actually quite good. And then they showed the loom that she's weaving on, and he was completely obscured. And while he was delivering essentially a monologue to her, the spotlight was on Anne Hathaway's face, on Penelope's face, and her reaction to what he was saying and the emotions, I felt myself being drawn in a brilliant way. Like this was Christopher Nolan at his best. And is it Wally Pfister? Did Wally Pfister do the DP?
I don't think he did on this one.
Oh,
he used to be his go-to guy,
because Nolan used to be with WB.
I don't know if
with WB.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, and now he's Universal.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if he worked with Wally on this
Apologies,
movie.
I can't remember who the cinematographer was, but that scene I was like leaning forward in my chair, like trying to like get a better look at Antinous / Eurymachus' face.
Yeah.
And to try, but then I found myself just feeling the emotions I am meant to feel vicariously through Penelope's reaction.
Yeah.
It was such a good shot. Like it was such a good scene. It might be one of Nolan's best just scenes ever. Just for that choice to obscure his face, to keep it as a one shot, to not cut, and to just have us be focused on Penelope during the entire monologue from Edward Cullen. Robert Pattinson, at least I'll call him by that. And that was just wonderful. And then there was a shot after that following with Menelaus and Telemachus, where they were bonding the way that a father and son would bond.
I liked that.
That was so good.
I
didn't love the introduction to Menelaus, but I did. Well, you're not supposed to.
Are you talking
he's a
about,
total. Like,
are you talking about the scene where they're like shooting the pheasants together?
Yes, that scene.
Yeah,
it was right after that. So good. And I was like, this is it. And he's talking a little bit about Agamemnon and what happened there. And Telemachus is like, wait, really? You know, Orestes killed his own mother? And Menelaus is like, he avenged his father.
Yeah.
And there's a play, there's a series of plays called the Oresteia from Aeschylus, around 400s BC, 400 something BC. Aeschylus wrote an extended play based on Orestes and this whole Clytemnestra and Agamemnon and Aegisthus and that whole situation that happened there. It's 3 separate plays, really well done, instant classics, very, very good. But I've read those before, and those, I was thinking about that the whole time, and like, oh man, that's crazy, because the whole question is, when something unjust happens, justice is required, but filial piety is also like the most important thing to maintain. What happens if it is your own family member that has done the justice thing for which you now have to seek vengeance on? Otherwise, justice has not been served. You're offending the gods. He does it, and Menelaus is like, he avenged his father. What do you mean? You can't just let your father's killer get away with it, right? And it, like, almost as if like Telemachus, no, you're the weird one, because Telemachus is like, well, that's crazy, and he's like, no, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Don't call me crazy. But I thought it was a really good way to actually briefly, for a few brief moments, inhabit the mindset of that old time period
of the time,
which I really liked, because this movie doesn't do it much. It's very modern. The takes, the reactions, especially by all the women, it is very super duper 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 modern. And it really kind of pulled me out of the movie a lot, where it's just like, okay, I get it. The freaking Bronze Age people were backwards. I get it. Anyways, but this was a scene of genuine just affection and understanding of the culture and teaching the culture to the next generation in a way that Telemachus he didn't have a father.
Yeah.
He didn't hear any of this stuff before. He never went hunting with his father. He probably did with Mentor or something. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
But it's different when it's somebody who really takes you under their wing in a fatherly manner, which is what Menelaus does. Menelaus is actually, they play him off in this movie not well, but in the book, he's very apologetic. In fact, I think he even says at one point, he's like, would that I could have my brother back and Troy's walls still be standing.
Yep.
Right? That
he would rather take it all back than be rich.
And it was his wife.
Yeah.
Like that. Like he was like, I would part with 2/3 of my riches.
Yeah.
If I don't know, it's like, okay, well, why not? What
not all
about
of
the
it?
other third, buddy? Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. But Nolan chose to portray him basically just anti Penelope, Helen, Clytemnestra in the movie, and he definitely skipped over Aegisthus in the movie. So, but he also played up the sacrifice of Agamemnon's daughter, which did happen. This is a this is a thing.
To touch on this.
This did happen.
It's different in Greek mythology. It wasn't like his 5-year-old girl or something like that he throws over a cliff. But there is a story while they're on their way to Troy.
They go on an island,
Yeah, and he summons his adult daughter to come there as a sacrifice. And she, after learning what it's really about, actually willingly participates in it. But that story does exist. It's different than it's portrayed in this film.
Very different.
They play it up.
But I don't blame it for being different.
The horror of it, because it's a teeny child, and it's just really, really horrific. But they say however, what is it that they say? The cost of the personal cost of the sacrifice
is relative,
is what is important,
is what makes it work.
Yeah. So and that gives his wife a reason to horrifically murder him when he comes back.
Yes. The real reason though is Aegisthus, because of things, but whatever. It's Nolan I don't blame him for doing this. In fact, one of the things that Aeschylus does, and I just praised Aeschylus, he does the same thing. He took a portion of the Odyssey and the Iliad, and he expands on it and invents new events and characters. And this is what the old Greek plays did. It's no trouble of mine that Nolan chose to do this. I sometimes just find it, eye-rolling sometimes. But this is what everybody does. It's sing for our times too. It's take this story and give it to us in a way that we can palate. And Agamemnon, he shouldn't have done that, right? He really shouldn't have done that. And Paris shouldn't have done that. And Odysseus probably shouldn't have done that. And Menelaus shouldn't have done that. And I can keep going, right? And Nolan is kind of just reaffirming they shouldn't have done that in this movie. Our modern take, right?
Our modern, morals.
Yes,
sort of
yes. But at the same time, I have found it so fascinating, the decisions Nolan made, and in particular, not really taking Odysseus's side in a lot of this, right? That is so in line. Like I've mentioned, I've studied this for a long time. The Old English, Like, I know you've been into the Odyssey, but I'm into Old English, and I know what the Old English thought of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
They didn't really like Odysseus that much. They, in fact, Virgil, oh gosh, we haven't even talked about this.
Yeah.
We probably don't need to read the whole thing.
Dante's Inferno, right?
Dante's Inferno.
He comes across Ulysses in hell.
I said Virgil. It's Virgil's the guide.
Yes.
For Dante. But yes, in Dante's Inferno and Canto 26-ish, I think, it is the 8th or 9th circle of hell. And it's Odysseus. He's
Ulysses
there.
is there.
Yeah, Ulysses. And it is not.
And it is because
Dante did not like him.
because of the deception with the Trojan horse.
Yes, that's part of it. Yeah. So Nolan is taking that.
Yeah.
He's taking not only the Old English takes on it.
Yeah.
He's taking Dante's opinion of Odysseus as well, which is all part of the Western canon, right? We loved the Iliad. We loved the Aeneid. We loved Troy. Odysseus was always just a complicated character for us Westerners. And as much as that story has reemerged kind of in the Enlightenment and has overtaken the Iliad in popularity.
Yeah.
But we still don't really love Odysseus. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this story will be told for another 3,000 years. I guarantee it. If we last that long. Gosh, even the AIs of the future will be telling each other this story. It's that good. It's that good.
It's that good.
But we still we still have trouble with Odysseus. He's a man of twists and turns. That will always be the case. And so Nolan giving us Dante and, the old, like, English opinions of Homer is like, well, gosh, I mean, maybe it's not an accurate reading of Homer, but it is the one that lines up with my culture for like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And this is the culture that we grew out of. And as much as the Odyssey has had a resurgence, we still kind of don't like those parts. And if we can have the Odyssey without those parts, that's almost like a holy grail, right? It's like, can we have this story without those parts? And I just think the story doesn't work without those parts.
Them. You gotta
That's the unfortunate truth that we Westerners need to realize. There's power of this story. I'm going to read you a quote from Robert Fagles real quick.
Great.
This is a really good quote. Robert Fagles. He says, and this is about the Iliad. This is part of his intro on the Iliad. The Iliad accepts violence as a permanent factor in human life and accepts it without sentimentality. For it is just as sentimental to pretend that war does not have its monstrous ugliness as it is to deny that it has its own strange and fatal beauty.
True. Very true.
A power which can call out in men resources of endurance, courage, and self-sacrifice that peacetime, to our eternal sorrow and loss, can rarely command. 3,000 years have not changed the human condition in this respect. We are still lovers and victims of the will to violence, and so long as we are, Homer will be read as its truest interpreter. When we get rid of those parts, we lose something. Yeah. We think that we're making it better, and maybe we are in a Western way, but we lost something important, and whatever's told thousands of years from now, it's not going to be Christopher Nolan's retelling. It's going to be whoever can render the original Greek in the most beautiful way, because that is the power of the story. It's not in just taking away all the bad parts so that we just have good Homer, or accepting that he did bad things and now we think bad Homer, but still, but no, it's not all of that. You have to take it all together and see Odysseus. Sorry, I'm just losing it. How long is this? How long have we been going for?
Longer 3 hours.
Longer than 3 hours. To see Odysseus still as a just hero who has many failings and shortcomings. And you can't ignore them, but you can't ignore it the other way too.
Yeah, and I think that the story is enduring because of that. We can see ourselves in the faults of Odysseus.
Yes,
and the failings
I see
of
myself.
Odysseus.
Yeah. In fact, would you have left
Calypso?
Calypso. Would you have left Calypso's island?
It's
Think of what he was offered
to say.
It's hard to say, but
I mean impossible, because you might in your heart want to say one thing, but then when it actually happens, like you never know.
Oh, what is that song? My mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me
right.
Yes.
Like you just
the mind is willing, but the flesh is weak.
A lot harder to say. It's a lot easier to say what you would do. A lot harder to actually follow up on it.
Exactly.
When the time comes.
But I will say that in the near future, we may be faced with such a choice, because Calypso's temptation of Odysseus is to just have all of his hedonic whims immediately fulfilled and satisfied, and to have complete immortality and to live with a goddess. I don't know what's coming in the future, but it's entirely possible that something like that may be on its way. And as paradisical as it sounds, just remember Odysseus said no, and that took a lot of fortitude. And what he really just wanted was to go back home to his wife.
Yeah.
And Nolan does keep that part alive. That's the part that the point of the journey. Like, just get me back home. Like, if there's one thing that's too sacred to touch, it's that, and that's the alongside the Zeus's law thing, that is the center of this story.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Nolan has ideas of whether or not he can stay at home once he gets there. And some of that comes from Dante as well.
Yep.
Like Dante says that Odysseus went west.
I was surprised to learn that I was initially like, because I actually had heard about the ending before seeing the film.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that's different from
the original.
The original.
In the original, it's like you have to sail somewhere, but then go inland and show someone an oar where they don't know what it is.
You have to offer sacrifices for the dead that you left behind and then honor them. But, at first I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, is this like this kind of modern storyteller idea that like he's not redeemable?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels that way.
It's actually not the case. I mean, I think there have been other versions of the story that paint him as, I mean, he's in the 8th or 9th circle of hell, Dante's Inferno. So
it's not just
learning that it's not just some modern take on the character or just like Nolan's idea that he can't remain and be a king and have a happy ending or something. There are older versions of the story or traditions or tellings of Odysseus' life afterwards that were similarly kind of like
and they mostly came.
You don't get redeemed.
They came mostly from the West, from Italy and England.
So that was interesting.
Yeah. There's another thing that Homer talks about in The Temptation of the Sirens, which is that in Nolan's version, this was actually a pretty decent piece of writing, they told me that I can never have the thing I most want, and that the thing that I do most want is the thing I already had, but lost, right? That's a good line.
That was a great line.
That's probably the best line of the whole.
And then I think he follows that up with, and they told me I don't actually want to go home.
Ooh, that's rough. Do you really want to go home?
That was pretty good. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I like that. You can read that into the Odyssey. Like, okay, it took 10 years because of all these things, but also, did it not take 10 years because you were dragging your feet just a little bit, right?
Right.
Especially after learning what happened to Agamemnon.
And especially in the original when he like actually lingers with Circe for a year.
Yes, for a year. It's like, willingly, ooh, buddy, hold on, man. But understand that in the original version of the Odyssey, it gave the siren song speaks differently to each person, right? But what it spoke to Odysseus in the book is it promised him the deepest knowledge of the world, and that can be obtained no other way. His
insatiable curiosity got the better of him, right?
But now I have to tell you what the name Calypso means. It means like deep, the knowledge, the secret knowledge that you would uncover at the bottom of the sea. That's like, that's what Calypso is. That's what she means. That's what she invites him. That's what she stands for. Not only is it hedonic whims and pleasures of all kinds and immortality, it is also the knowledge, the sacred, secret, eternal knowledge that Odysseus so wants and would have chased the sirens looking for. And after 7 years, Odysseus is like, he's tired of it. Like, either that, none of these things are fulfilling. They're not properly fulfilling. The only thing that he believes is properly fulfilling is home and his wife and his kid. That's the only thing that will actually truly fulfill this insatiable desire he has, this curiosity, this will to know the world and everything about all of its secrets, right? He just spent 7 years getting to know all the secrets of the world from Calypso. And I just want to go back home now.
I think Alfred Tennyson's poem, Ulysses, kind of takes that angle on Odysseus, where he's been home for a while, but he's got that urge to go and explore again.
He does.
Right? Like he's kind of fighting that now.
Yep.
So like that's kind of an interesting take that Tennyson takes on the character.
Yeah, with Tennyson also, he sails beyond the sunset.
Yeah.
West.
Yeah.
He goes out west.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a coincidence that America is out west. I don't know. I've often wondered that with Dante too, because he talks about how Ulysses encounters Mount Purgatory, basically. He encounters like the mountain of at the top of which is the Garden of Eden. And then he gets destroyed by a storm before he can reach it. But that is what lies west of west, right?
Yeah.
West of Spain and the Pillars of Hercules and all that. It's one thing to have written about it before the discovery of America to the Western mind. It's another thing for Nolan to talk about it in that way. It's like, oh, well, we actually know there is stuff there. So
right.
Where did Odysseus go?
Where did he end up? Yeah. Okay. A lot of stuff that I want to say here.
Oh, yes, yeah. So what did you think of the movie, Mike?
First, I want to read something Dude McGuy wrote here, because I think this is worth bringing up as maybe something of a counterpoint. I disagree with Casen's take a bit. I think Nolan's version, focusing strongly on the theme of how the old law was broken, led to the social cohesion being broken beyond repair, is always going to feel relevant.
Is that when I said that people aren't going to be doing Nolan's thing?
Maybe like they
years?
won't be telling his version of it.
Well, can I just amend that and say, except for that part?
Not the...
Because that's the original Odyssey.
Not like
I'm just
the
saying.
theme of it as much as like this. I mean, it's always going to be remade. It's always going to be for the modern time, like it said in the beginning. What is it that
for our
in Emily Wilson's translation, it was like, tell it for our modern time or whatever it was. But this other point he makes here, more religious leaning people will feel this way as culture. And by the way, I don't even know if Dude McGuy is religious or not. He's generally, he's kind of like me. He's like one of those filthy moderate people.
Oh, geez. Ever searching.
Centrists.
Ever searching.
More religious leaning people will feel this way as culture tends more secular.
I agree
and
with
secular
that,
people will feel that way simply as time passes and culture changes. I think the core message is pretty timeless, even if aspects of the film are extremely modern.
Dude McGuy, can I just say, awesome take. I like it.
I wanted to bring that up particularly because I thought that was a good point to bring up in all of this. Now, my reasons for being disappointed with the film are a little bit different than yours. But I want to say up front, it's always an awkward position to be in when you dislike a good thing. when you come away from a game that is a good game, but you don't like it. Or you come away from a film that is, in many objective metrics, a very good film, but you didn't like it. This is not one of those cases where I'm going to try to make the argument or try to persuade you. This is actually a bad film that all of you people out there really love and gave a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes user scores.
It's weird. We are the 3%.
I am not saying that. Yeah. This is a really well-made film on so many different levels. And they're just elements of it that are just choices I don't prefer. So that is at the heart of where I'm coming from. I'm fully admitting, really good movie, really solid movie, maybe even a great movie in some regards. But I have a history with this story, and I have certain elements of it that I value that are really missing in this version. And based on how we talked about the 97 version, you might pick up on what some of those might be. I am a fan of Christopher Nolan. I don't think he's the greatest filmmaker of our times, but I especially loved his early career. Memento is my favorite film of his.
Memento's good. Prestige.
I loved The Prestige. And
Dark Knight. Inception.
I liked Inception quite a lot too. And I even really liked Interstellar, despite some of those writing nitpicks I had. I have liked his more recent films a little less. I have not yet seen Oppenheimer. That's like a Oscar-winning Best Picture film.
Well, this one may win Oscars too.
I need to see that movie.
Yeah.
So I'm not commenting on that part of his career because I have not seen it. I'm talking more about like Tenet and
I see.
Stuff like that. So there are great strengths he has as a filmmaker that I think he almost uses as a crutch sometimes. And he becomes a little predictable and formulaic in that sense. The way he ends movies, there's a very strong formula and structure to that. Not that he doesn't ever break out of that, but for the most part. And I won't break that down now because we've already been going through 3.5 hours. I'm saying all of this to say there are elements of his style that captured me as a young, at the time, aspiring filmmaker myself. And I loved how he sort of began this wave of like more grounded, psychologically real characters from these sort of modern myths of superhero movies and stuff, which I'm now very fatigued by. Not that they're all that way. It's more the DC side of things that kind of tried to go that way. Very grim, dark, very severe in tone, very heavy. And I say this all while being a guy who writes a lot with that tone in this very thing that I wrote. I tend to write things that are very grave and serious and maybe lack some of the contrast that I preach and claim to value, right? That's maybe a weakness of my own writing. So I say this all while acknowledging even myself that like I'm not perfect or would not necessarily be able to do better or something like that. But the Odyssey in particular has a real sense of magic and this era of gods among men that I really value about the story, that I think is very important to the story working. And it's not that Nolan completely washes that away in the sense that maybe The Return does, but it's so subtle, it's so detached from the living world that he doesn't want to show gods, but he's perfectly fine with showing monsters.
Yes.
And that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand the hesitancy to show Zeus and Poseidon and have characters speak and walk with the gods. But we're perfectly okay with giants and sea monsters and
the dead in Hades.
The dead coming out of the ground to speak with you. Those supernatural or fantastical elements are okay, but not gods talking to us and being incredibly influential in what happens.
It's like the elements below, but not the elements above.
Yeah, that is the missing element of Nolan's Odyssey for me, and the part that I was most disappointed about. Athena kind of appears,
but she's like a hallucination.
It's really if the
way they play it off.
If we're to literally read that Athena is visiting him, it's only to remind him of his guilt. That's not the Athena of Homer's Odyssey. She is trying to freaking help him get home.
Very, very hard.
So
at personal cost.
Because of that, and because I know Nolan knows that and understands his source well, and he's a very smart guy. It actually comes across to me that it's almost a what do you call that? It's a bait and switch. We're meant to think that's Athena, but in the end, it's his own, in his own mind. He's speaking to Athena, but he's seeing what he did, his guilt of a woman that was massacred and slaughtered in the streets of Troy. So I didn't love that element of this film, and that's kind of something you can't escape in it. It's very serious and grave and heavy, and there's no adventurous spirit to it, and there's no magic. In fact, I think the first line before the movie starts is "in a world of apparent magic." And that's very typical of Nolan. He doesn't.
So that was Batman.
He wants to ground it. He wants to make it feel realistic. What would Batman look like if it was in the real world instead of this comic book land where they can do all kinds of crazy universe jumping and nutso stuff, and where like literal gods like Superman walk the earth,
Thor,
so he that's kind of his angle on things. That's his thing. That's his style. So I expected that, and that was maybe the reason, as I go back to my earlier curiosity at my own incuriosity of this film, my own not being excited for it when I first saw trailers and stuff. I felt like I saw that somewhere in there and was like, that's not the Odyssey to me. The Odyssey must have a very active pantheon of gods who speak with Odysseus and physically get in his way or physically help him and speak with him and give him the herbs that prevent him from being transformed by Circe. And Hermes arrives physically and speaks with him, and he sees him, and the gods transform before the eyes of Nestor and Telemachus into an owl and flies away. That's the world the Odyssey takes place in. Does that invalidate this take? No, but it's just not the one I prefer as an artistic choice. And so that would be the element I did not like about this movie, and probably the overall reason why I fell on the didn't love it side of things. There are also some strange anachronisms that, again, I cannot say Nolan doesn't know this. He's not the kind of guy who doesn't know everything, every choice he's making, and have a reason for it.
Sure.
So without sitting him down and saying, why did you give the giants steel-plated armor? This is the Bronze Age.
Right.
Why did you do that?
Especially if you're going to point out the fact that this is our age of bronze.
Yes.
In the movie so directly. Yeah. Very strange.
It's just a strange art direction choice that I don't understand, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a reason for it, beyond it being, I think steel-plated armor looks cool on those giants. Nolan's not the type of filmmaker who makes a choice for that reason. Similarly, Agamemnon's design, the Batman cowl almost, and like the aura of darkness of that character.
That was not the Iliad,
and even like the Trojan soldiers' armors, they just look so strange and out of place to me.
Right.
And but I say that while fully admitting there's probably choices made there that I'm not understanding. Because he's the kind of filmmaker, right? He worked with, I should have looked this up. The name of the composer for this one. It's not Hans Zimmer. It's not who he usually goes to. But they made, as a part of the soundtrack, right, the slamming of bronze plates, which were used in the film as the alarm bells in Troy, right? They hit those bronze plates.
Right.
And I believe they do it back in Odysseus's home too, towards the end of the movie, when it's like when they come together and he's going to shoot the arrow through the axe heads.
Oh yeah.
They have someone hitting a big bronze plate like a gong in the background. And they made that texture, that sound, a recurring element of the film's score, right? That slamming of bronze. That's a thoughtful choice about taking something about the theme of the movie or the world of the movie and working it into the music. That's the kind of thoughtful filmmaker he is. So I would never claim that he made these choices about costume design or whatever else, color palette or lighting,
the
or
way
whatever.
that Matt Damon shoots his bow.
Yeah, the form or something.
Like there may be a reason for that. I don't get it.
There is. I'm certain he thought about every single detail of this movie, and that he made thoughtful choices that made sense. That were that if I knew the reason, I would probably go like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, I'd be like, wow, that's probably a pretty cool idea. So a lot of people, when they saw some of those designs and they were just like making fun of it on Twitter and stuff like that, like Agamemnon was just Batman and what is with these costumes? They look horrible. I think that knee-jerk reaction to stuff is natural. I don't blame people or even tell them they shouldn't say that.
That's all they had to go on.
But I know he's not the kind of filmmaker who makes mistakes
like that
in the way that you guys are thinking this is a mistake.
Right.
He's way too thoughtful to do that. So,
and he has way too much money.
Yeah.
Like $250 million, I think, was
for the budget on this.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want at that point.
I don't like it. I mean, my just gut initial reaction, my emotional response to the design and look of the film is that I don't like how it looks. I think it is, I don't like the color grade. I don't like
yes, me
I don't
neither.
like the lighting.
Yeah.
I think it has way too much contrast. It's crushed way too hard. And the lighting makes a lot of the interior scenes in the palace look really flat. And again, I'm not nearly as good a filmmaker as Christopher Nolan.
Right.
He knows these things.
Yeah.
It's not like he made a mistake. He made a choice. I just don't like how it looks.
There you go. That's it.
I don't like how it feels. I don't like how dark it all is. I don't like how serious and grave it is all the time. I don't like that it has no magic and no gods. It's not my preferred take of this story. And I think without those elements, it's not the same. It doesn't work. That said, just like you said, there are parts of this that I thought were really great. I loved the Cyclops design.
Yeah, that
and
was
all
so
practically
interesting.
shot.
Yes,
And really freaking terrifying. I talked earlier in this episode about how disturbed I was by the Cyclops scene when my mother first read it and other versions I watched, and just how horrifying and
that feels like
disturbing
yesterday.
it was.
I'm not even joking. It feels like you were telling me that yesterday.
Yeah.
in this, how long have we been going?
It's like
that was today?
Cersei's Island.
that was this
we've
podcast.
We've been speaking for 3 years, not 3 hours.
That would be crazy.
The Cyclops' appearance and just the general like feel as it comes in.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was good.
Gave me those disturbing feelings. It recalled those kinds of moments of my childhood to me. It's probably the best looking Cyclops on film. The eye is also flipped horizontally.
Yeah, because the nose
is all deformed
sideways as well,
Yeah.
which kind of makes room for the single eye. It's just something I hadn't thought of before.
It's a really, really, that design I really liked. And in almost every other film adaptation of that scene, they have the typical like cut stone that's just rolled in front of but in this it's just like almost a natural piece of the wall that he might have like knocked over, and then it just lifts up and covers the entrance. Like a lot of those other depictions of that stone that the soldiers can't move it feels very cheesy from a production level to me.
Right.
And in this it didn't. It felt
Right.
very natural and looked really cool. I didn't like the fact that they didn't speak and that the whole nobody trick was omitted. I love that part of the story, but I did love when he started speaking.
And it was
the
Poseidon.
language.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a very cool sounding language, and I just wanted to hear more of it. I wanted Odysseus and the Cyclops to try to communicate and speak to each other more. At the same time, it would have. I understand the choice. It's a little bit less horrific of a creature if you can speak and communicate, because that means we can talk and we can reason and understand each other.
Which is how he tricks him in the story.
Which decreases my fear of you if I have some method of understanding you.
Right.
Not understanding it or feeling like there's no way in which I can communicate with this monster makes it scarier.
Sure.
But there's also something really terrifying and scary about communicating with it, and then it still makes the choice to eat you and just like spit your head out.
Yeah.
And it has no regard for your social customs. You're in its territory now. Like, that's a whole different kind of terrifying that the original story gets that this one does not.
Yeah.
And Odysseus does not come across as that cunning, intelligent, 10 steps ahead, playing 4D chess with everyone type of character in this movie, because he doesn't do things like the nobody trick. He's not like foreseeing and like planning. It's not that he's completely absent. It's just like way subdued in comparison. But so those are my problems with the film. But I really loved its concepts, its ideas. And
it had some interesting ideas.
And the fact that he made Odysseus and his crew the sea people.
Yes.
And that he feels
that is so interesting.
He feels that his act of the Trojan horse was going to lead to the destruction of the whole civilization he came out of and that he lived. I love that.
Yeah.
I loved Robert Pattinson's performance.
He was good.
I loved Anne Hathaway's performance.
She was good too, but I will say that I like Persephone in the book better
Penelope.
than Persephone. She's not even in the Odyssey. Penelope.
Yeah.
I liked Penelope better in the book. She's a very strong character in the book.
Yeah.
And in the movie, she's weaker. I think her outbursts are. It's funny that she'll tell Telemachus because he's like, "Hey, I'm the ruler. They should listen to me." And she goes, "Oh, really? Yeah, go do it then. Go out there.
She's
go
not
be
like
the king."
supporting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, well, actually, you're really not the king because if you were a ruler, you would rule.
Yeah.
You're not ruling. That means that you're not the ruler."
Yeah, the scene
right?
you're referring to, I didn't
You see what I
love
mean?
that either.
But
Yeah.
then she's outbursting like, "Why can't I be the queen? What about my
That's
wisdom and my
true.
knowledge?" And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, if
Oh,
you could,
that's right.
lady, no, he should have turned right back to, if you can rule, go rule. What
Yeah.
have you been doing for 20
Yeah.
years? You're telling me you're some great ruler? 20 years, what have you gotten? You know? So it was just interesting. It's the character. The actress did great.
Yeah, I agree.
But the character, Penelope in the story is so good and cunning and witty and so wise. I didn't get that in Nolan's adaptation.
I think in that scene, he refers to the throne as being empty, and she really takes offense at that, as if like she hasn't
She's like,
been there sitting on it the whole time.
Yeah,
But
look
you're
at,
right. It's
look
like
at
all of this
house,
happened
look
under,
at your house.
under your supervision.
Yeah, can
as
you
well.
rule? You're telling me you can rule? You can
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. But,
the one who can rule is the one who rules.
anyway,
by the way, it was Ludwig Göransson or Göransson.
Yes,
if he's
the
Swedish,
composer.
it's Göransson, who was the
composer. Oh, that's, I guess, another element. I just really, I miss the sweeping scores of old Hollywood.
Yeah,
everything now is so, and it's not that I dislike it as one tone in a movie. You can have like one atmospheric kind of just like dark, weird textures and just kind of creating this atmosphere.
Like the Dune soundtrack.
Yeah, like
which is really interesting.
Like having the whole score be that all the way through the movie. There's no sweeping movements. No moments of Odysseus holding his son on the island and spinning around like this. This is yours. This is Ithaca. This is your home. And that music that accompanies that. That's an element of modern filmmaking, and particularly like modern blockbusters and movies that are meant to be large and epic. They're just missing that sweeping score, that music that moves you and has a melody that like makes you feel something, instead of just being a supplement to this is a scary moment and the music is communicating that. Yeah.
And now on to the next. That is another thing I also felt about the movie. It had a very much and then this happened, and then this, and then they felt more disjointed in that way, missing maybe something of a through line. They kept coming back to him with Calypso, who
I did like this though. There was one thing that I liked about this.
Yeah.
And that is, and this is where maybe we'll disagree on this, but this is like, if we're just talking about this particular change, I'm not talking about the whole movie,
just
but like
this
particular change is the type of change that I would put into that top left quadrant, where it understands the spirit of the thing, but it's totally wrong in terms of how it's telling it. Now, maybe we're not even talking about the same thing yet. Let me reveal
because I'm talking about the Temptations and all that.
So in the story, the Homer's poem, he goes to the Phaeacians and recounts his journey to them. He's retelling his own story
in like a court.
They knew they weren't going to do that in this movie. They're not going to have he goes to that kingdom and talks with them part. So instead, they chose to have him tell his own story to Calypso.
Sure.
So like that's kind of interesting. Let's see how they do with that.
Yeah.
They also knew they're not going to have the Lotus Eaters in the story. How can we work both of those elements that are being cut and put them into this section we are going to have in a way that will get those elements across? The lotus being you forget your life, right? Eating the lotus makes you forget, in particular, forget that you want to return home at all.
Sure.
And the fact that he is retelling his story. Well, he's rediscovering it because she's been giving him lotus, which made him forget his life. So as he's remembering it, he's telling it.
Gotcha.
So they like combined those two things into the Calypso's Island segment in a way that I felt was faithful to the ideas And I think even Calypso giving the lotus is true to her character in the sense that she wants him to forget his home.
Yes, but
not in the sense that what I think what you're about to say, so I'll let you say it. But she in the story does not want him to remember Penelope. She wants him to. She just thinks she can be alluring enough to make him forget.
Right.
But in this version, she's using the lotus and another element from another part of the story as a goddess, a magical element, so to speak, to make him forget. And I thought that worked. I thought that worked in the sense that they knew they're not going to have a 4.5 hour long movie and they're not going to be able to do those two parts. We want to at least pay homage to those parts. And this is something Calypso wants in the original story. She wants him to forget. So using that as a method to those ends, I think captures a certain element of the spirit of the story while getting the details of it completely wrong or changing them.
It's very interesting. I mean, I got all that. I was like, oh, this is the lotus. Oh, she didn't. Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Oh, and he should be telling it. I got all that. I think they combined those things to Calypso at the cost of the most important moment of the story, which is Odysseus turning down immortality.
Yeah.
And turning down Calypso's offer of pleasure forever. Like this eternal, like, I've already mentioned before, who would say no to that? That is the biggest trial for Odysseus to turn down. Not only eternal pleasure married to a goddess, but also the goddess Calypso, the mystery of the deep, right? The one with the knowledge that you seek so desperately, that you would have killed yourself for the sirens to have gotten. It came at the sacrifice of that narrative because the way the character comes across is, oh, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you get back to your home, you know? And so in that case, she's more like the Phaeacian
there's definitely
like
something to the fact that they were trying to cut down the sexual nature of these relationships.
It's true. Yeah, you could have had that without it showing that. But,
now, I still think
that's so important.
I still think it's implied that he was there for 7 years, a man and a woman alone on an island for 7 years.
But the way that she acts, I thought so at first, but by the end I was like,
I think you could end up reading it both ways. Yeah. You could say, yeah, they're together for 7 years. They probably, at some point. But you could also see
they didn't show a mischievous element.
She seemed to just genuinely love this man. And it was more playing up that aspect of like her love of him and less like the lust.
I know it now. I know it.
Does that make sense?
The thing that's missing is what you already said is the thing that's missing, and it's the god commanding her.
Yeah.
Basically, instead of having a god tell her, she just slowly came to this realization that she needs to let him go.
The thunder. Do you remember that?
Yes, but that's not the god.
I know what you mean. I just want to make sure to counteract
you're right.
the comments that will come.
You're right.
They do have a shot where Calypso, it's a stormy sky, and Calypso hears thunder and she looks up at the sky like this, and all of a sudden she starts trying to help him remember.
We didn't see what she was doing before that.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you.
We don't know what Ulysses turned down by leaving that island. And the other parts that I liked was the way he's very tricky with his words because he is building up Penelope and saying, I need to go home to her without denigrating Calypso, right? He's so careful in the book about everything that he says. Like, oh, Penelope is so great. She's so wise. And she's like, but I'm more beautiful than her. And he's like,
she could never match you.
Because he doesn't want to anger another god, right?
Yeah.
He's just like, you are truly, you are so beautiful. But you see, I just really want to go home. And Penelope's wizzy. Then he starts talking about how wise Penelope is. He stops talking about her beauty because he knows that then compared to me, well, okay, but I love in the 97 movie when he says, then we'll grow old together, right? Mm-hmm. It's so, because he's like, she'll grow old. Like I will never grow old.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, we'll grow old together. I'd rather have one moment in her arms than eternity with you. I really, of course, you could say that more, be a little more calculating when you say that, and don't say with you. You've got Odysseus was great about it, but anyways, I'm okay with all that missing. But that one part, if you're going to say that the lotus thing and the Phaeacians and combining that together on Calypso's island, trumps just what naturally would have happened at Calypso's island in the story. I don't think that's a fair trade.
I don't think it trumps it as much as I just appreciated that the decision had already been made. They're going to de-emphasize the sexual nature of their relationship. So
whoever made that decision was probably Christopher Nolan.
And that they're not going to have these two parts of the story otherwise.
And so they snuck him in.
So they put him in there in a way that for this particular take on the Calypso Odysseus relationship works to those ends. But I agree with what you're saying. I don't disagree that there's a lot of the, I would call it magical or mystical sort of like tone feeling of the story that is just like not existent in this version.
Right.
And Calypso being a nymph, a goddess, whatever you want to call it, they don't portray her that way.
No.
She doesn't feel that way, even though she is literally in his movie.
Right.
She doesn't feel like that.
She's wearing like a fishing net or something.
Yeah, right.
Like she was in a cave before, I get that, but she was able to conjure like these illusions and whatnot that were just so difficult to say no to. But I also didn't really like the actress there. So there you go. I said it.
It's not that I don't think there's room for adaptations like this or like The Return. It's that it feels like in the modern age of filmmaking, they think there's only room for those types of interpretations.
Right.
People don't try to make the 97 version of the Odyssey today with the big budgets and the blockbuster level spectacle.
Yeah.
And that's disappointing to me.
I know.
There's no
the
movies,
best we have is
there's
that 97
no
TV
movies
special.
like that anymore. They like stopped making them. And I want some of them to exist. I'm fine with there being these grim, dark takes on stuff that, like, obviously people like that, and I like that, and there's room for that. I want that to exist. I just don't want it to be all that exists. And sacrificing the magic of the movies of our childhood and the tone and the feeling that you got from watching them, all because every movie must be so gravely serious and must be realistic and must depict heroes that are conflicted. There's room for that, but there's room for the others too.
Yeah.
Make those two is all I'm really trying to say. And I think this was just one too many films of its kind being made in this way where I'm starting to get fatigued by it. And I'm missing the magic.
I hear them. I hear
so.
I gotta say though, this is an actor I really want to praise. Himesh Patel, who was Eurylochus, like the right hand man for Odysseus. Great. Wasn't he so good?
He was great in this movie.
He was better than, he's probably the best of the best part of the whole movie was him.
He was great.
You're not supposed to love him necessarily because he gets a little mutinous and a little let's eat the sun god's cattle. But the actor did a great job, and I even liked the character quite a bit. I was like, thought he was. What would you do in his position? He was the most grounded and also the most. I loved it. I loved it. I thought that character was.
I
great.
will say the most magical part of the movie, or the part of the movie that demonstrates the most magic, is one of my favorite sequences, which is where she's transforming all the men into pigs.
Oh my gosh.
And how like the body horror of it was, dude, that was crazy.
That was wild. I was wondering how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
Because
that's all
in my mind
too.
Yes, I noticed.
None of that was CGI.
Nolan did a lot, and so was the Cyclops. A lot of that was practical.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way that, like, because I thought they just eat it, they turn into animals, but it's like, no, she's like pulling.
And the fact that they can't stop eating.
Yeah,
like
that was something.
It's like they're forcing some magic
because they're pigs
is
or
like
whatever. Yeah,
forcing the freaking food down their own throat. They're like coughing and like choking on it.
Yeah.
And then she's like physically like shaping their faces and sticking her freaking fist down their throats and like pulling almost like Clayface style. Like they're like it's like she's manipulating clay.
Yes.
And I thought that was really cool and terrifying.
Yes. That was cool and terrifying.
Cersei herself was obviously kind of a portrayal of the classic depiction of her. She was not like a temptress or alluring or wanted any kind of that sexual relationship with Odysseus.
Yeah, they skipped that.
She's more just kind of like a witch.
She's a witch, and exactly the kind of witch of the old tales. Like a woman who lives alone doesn't trust anyone. That's why she turned her own sister into a bird.
Raven
so she's got these, but she's just a witch who lives alone in the forest. Like this is an old classic
I loved that.
Yeah, I thought it was so good.
I thought that was a great sequence of the film.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was disturbing and grotesque and terrifying and just riveting the whole way through. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. But then again, like, and even in this version of Odysseus is like reasoning with her, I actually quite liked.
With the bird, yeah.
And him like, inquiring about that and the way he sort of convinces her without violence. Because in the original, I think Hermes tells him to like draw the sword and, like eat this. She's going to try to like change you. And when it doesn't work and you threaten her, like you'll have the upper hand.
Yeah.
And in this, he doesn't do that. He
threatens her sister.
Well, that's true. He's holding.
But he doesn't know who it is. He's just guessing.
Yeah.
He could have easily guessed wrong.
I felt like his dialogue with her was very.
I liked it too. Yeah.
It was very. What's the word I'm looking for? Empathetic to her, right? And
Sure.
maybe he's
because she's clearly been wronged in the past.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I don't know. I just liked it. I liked that whole sequence. That was one of my favorite sequences. Of the film.
That was good. That was good.
Trying to think of anything else that we haven't.
And then Robert
touched
Pattinson was great.
Robert Pattinson was really good. I never saw the '97 Odyssey, says Alan. I do plan to watch it, but my Odyssey of my childhood was the Canadian TV series. I didn't even know there
That might have
was
been what I
one.
watched in high school because it wasn't the '97 one.
I haven't even heard of that.
Check it out later.
Oh, was this about children on an adventure? Was it one of those loose adaptations?
Never mind. Like Brother,
Where Art Thou or something, where it's like pretty much it was not related. So it's not like called the Odyssey or something.
It was not related, I see.
Okay. I was wondering if I had missed a version that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Anyway, yeah. It's a very good film. I would even recommend seeing it. Like, I think as one of those like cultural touchstones or like moments where like people are going back to the theater after years of wondering whether theaters will even survive. It's pretty cool. And it's a big movie experience that, you don't get all that often. I know a lot of superhero movies they're not on this level. There's a certain gravity and a certain aura to Christopher Nolan releases.
Yeah,
because
he still shoots on film. It's a different kind of thing. He's one of the few.
I would recommend seeing it if you're curious. But
I'd recommend reading it.
but yes, I recommend it being a catalyst or a launching point to going back to the original thing, which is what I think good adaptations or good remakes or whatever should do. They should be about preserving the original as much as they are about reinterpreting it or something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would say Nolan would recommend exactly the same thing. I'm sure that he would tell you,
sure.
Please go read the Odyssey. Please go see other filmmakers before me.
And this is the first time I listened to it in audiobook because when we decided to do this podcast, there wasn't much time.
Yeah.
So I listened to the Odyssey for the first time. And this story is a joy to listen to. This is how it would have been passed down back in Homer's time. And to most people who were illiterate, most people who were aware of the story would have heard it, not read it.
Yeah.
So listening to it is really something.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And the Mendelssohn version that I read has an audiobook. It's decent.
Okay. Some of it depends on who's the reader. But.
I've brought this up in the past, but the way I like to read books now is to have the ebook with
both.
the audio in, I don't know what they call it. It's some kind of sync. I don't know if it's called whisper sync.
With Audible?
Anyway, Audible and Kindle have like a syncing where it'll like do the highlighted words as it reads it. And so like, I like nice.
That would be good for learning languages.
I like to be able to hear it and read it. And then if I'm commuting somewhere, if I'm driving, I can just listen and then just pick it up and read it. It gives you options. So I really like to do it that way. I did that with the Mendelssohn version, this particular reading. Great one here is saying, personally, I'm more or less purist adaptation and prefer more self-interpretation. It's a tough thing because I wondered how to speak about this in relation to this we just started it, but this like remake analysis we're doing. We're calling it the remake trials. We did Star Fox as our first episode. We're going to do Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Yeah, I've been playing it.
And
It's so
there's just this different expectation for a remake of a video game and its need to be faithful in sort of the popular culture of video games versus film adaptations and things of that nature. There's a different expectation. Not to say that there aren't book readers who get upset about changes in films, but you just expect it's going to happen because of the short nature of films. Like, you just don't have the time to do it all. But it's such an interesting thing to think about, where there's this more open-mindedness to changes in something like this versus a video game remake or something. And I don't know how different they really are as things, or why that expectation is. We just accept that as being different. And I am more open to, there's been a million versions of the Odyssey, so I'm cool with you doing something radically different, which is why I like Epic the Musical.
Oh yeah.
I like it a lot.
Watched that,
even though it does a lot of things that maybe people traditionally would say, like, based on your love of literature and of the original story here, why do you like this version of it, which does so many modern takes on it? I don't know. I just do. I love Epic the Musical. I think it's great, and it changes a whole lot of stuff about the story. I mean, he literally fights Poseidon and defeats him in Epic the Musical.
That's right. He cuts him up,
which is like way off course.
Oh, totally.
Totally divorced of the source material.
But at least Poseidon was there.
It's
at least
awesome.
Poseidon existed.
That's true. At least there is a Poseidon in the story. But I loved Epic the Musical. So it's not the fact that it's different that bothers me. It's Epic the Musical had a lot of magic and gods being very involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Athena and Odysseus have like a breakup of sorts which does not happen in the real story.
In the real story, she just kind of there's a time where she doesn't appear for a while.
Yeah.
And then she comes back, and he's like,
they interpret that in Epic the Musical as they had a falling out.
That's so funny.
Which is, losing a lot of points on like faithfulness to the original. But I still really loved it. I ended up really liking the music and the take, and a lot of the animations that were done by kind of like the different fans and things like that. So I loved that version. And I'm all for like doing some radically different stuff. I really liked the return outside of the ending. The ending, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I loved that take of the character, even though it's very different. But
which reminds me, the ending of the Nolan movie, The Return of the King.
Oh,
great narrative. Great narrative. Although he says, "Oh, but I can't be king. It's got to be my son." Okay, fine. He's just abdicating his responsibility again. I get it, whatever. But he's passing it on to his son. Totally fair. And then he diminishes and goes into the West.
Yeah,
and will remain Odysseus.
Yeah.
So I actually liked kind of
the ending of this film was pretty good.
Not every single thing about it, but I do like some things about it.
Yeah.
You know, he could have, let's just put it this way. He could have subverted Homer in a modern way in 1,000 worse times than he did.
Yeah.
And so for that, it's fine. I like the things I like, and you know, but the 97 one, guys, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Oh my gosh, go watch it.
The 97 miniseries.
Really, just like they didn't have $250 million. Like,
I think the budget was like 30 or 40 million total,
for that
which is a lot more in 97 than it is today.
Yeah.
But still not like, I mean, I think The Lord of the Rings, which came out shortly after that, was
300 million,
over 100 million for each one.
Yeah.
So about 300 million total.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it pales in comparison in terms of production value and ability to do certain things, but for what it is, man, it's a fantastic take, and my favorite screen adaptation outside of the fact that I haven't seen the 68 version, but I will after this. Okay.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you watched.
Thank you for listening to us talk about the Odyssey for 4 hours.
Talk about not video games.
Again, if you want us to talk more about the Iliad or other classic literature, we can do a podcast, Tale of Two Cities. We tried to do one once on Crime and Punishment. About 5 people watched that.
That was in the good old days. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So I would love to talk more about it. Maybe I'll do that more on my personal channel, which I keep promising and never having time for. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Let us know what you thought of the movie, and we'll see you next week.